Let me see. Hey, YouTube, what's happening? It's Metal Madness Jeff here. It's been a little while. We did that Enslaved Part 2 about a little over 2 weeks ago with Jimmy and Rick. And today, speaking of Rick, real quick, I want to thank him for the killer thumbnail for tonight. And as usual, he just does incredible work. I gave him a concept, and he just, he knocked it out of the park as usual. But tonight, special night here on Metal Madness 66 channel because I've got the one, the only Austin Lunn with me here. And we've been trying to get this together for about a half a year. You had a lot going on back in February and March, and then my health kind of kicked in April, May, and June. But we're finally here, and we're gonna dig down deep into what I truly feel. A lot of people use this term a lot, sort of loosely, but people say, "Oh, that's a legendary band." Well, I truly think King's X is a pretty legendary band. They're a band that kind of defies categorization. You can hear grunge. A lot of people say, "Oh, they're one of the original grunge bands." They're prog, they're psych, they're pop, they're kind of everything. And I just kind of think they're King's X because they have their own unique vibe and sound, and it's just incredible. So, Austin, how are you doing tonight, man?
I'm good. Autumn is kind of, it's well underway here. We're getting we're getting all the leaves are changing, the maples and the tamarack trees are turning yellow. Hey, Marty. Um, and we're starting to see the aspen and birch trees turning. It's really really nice, and it's getting nice and cool. Nice cool evenings.
Great
So
time of the year, right?
it's amazing, and it'll be good. And then after that, we get snow, so that'll be good too. So it's really nice, and we had a really buggy summer this year.
Did you?
Like it was
Yeah.
really, yeah, man, because we had a ton of snow last winter. So the the melt off was just brutal. Everything was wet. All the
Oh,
rivers were
really?
going like the waterfalls were going like crazy. So the bugs just went nuts, and I mean it was insanity. I mean the black
I re
flies were totally bonkers.
I
So
remember the one time I came out to. I think I've only been to Minnesota proper once. We went out to visit my stepfather's mother, which she's now gone probably 15 years, and he's gone almost 10. Um, and we went tubing on a river somewhere near St. Paul. Oh no, wait. Yeah, is St. Paul the sister city to Minneapolis? Is that how it works?
yeah, yeah. St.
Well,
Cloud is the one that's
is there a place there called Robbinsville or Robbinsdale or something?
yeah. There's well, are you
That
thinking of Roseville?
No, I'm pretty sure it was Robbinsville.
There is. I mean, I
And
don't my understanding of I mean, I'm not native to Minnesota, so like
okay, okay.
you know I know the
But
places I've lived, the places I
yeah,
go. So
but dude, I remember we were there in like July.
I was at Healy.
We were there in July, and the mosquitoes were fucking insane, like insane, like and they all came after me. Like everybody else is tubing, and I'm just getting wrecked, you know. So, um, but a cool place. Tell me what do you have going on, man? Now I know you put out your last album last May, and I know you've got some stuff in the works. So give everybody an idea of what's happening in the camp of Panopticon and Austin Lunn right now.
Well, yeah, so Anakin and the Light came out 2021, early 2021. And after that, we played a couple of shows. Well, I think we played one show in 2021 to support the album, and it was in August. It was
Wow.
yeah. Well, I mean, right after that, the Delta variant hit.
Yeah.
So we did Shadow Woods, and then we were off until this summer. We started playing shows again, and we played a number of shows. And before And Again to the Light was even out, I had started, because the thing is, it takes so long for stuff to come out,
Right.
and I'm constantly writing, and so before the album was even out, I had begun writing another record. And so I've
Wow.
spent all of 2021, starting in January, all the way up until now, working on a new record. And
Oh, wow.
so it's pretty much done. Just waiting on some guest vocalists to get their parts finished, and then we mix. And then I also have an acoustic record that has songs dating back to 2018.
Okay.
That's pretty much done. It's a shorter record. It's the first half of it is like really stripped down singer songwriter type stuff with some minimal accompaniment, and then side B is like bluegrass, like with the full
Wow.
band and and
That's cool.
or like it's like half bluegrass and half like full band acoustic with like big string arrangements and all that kind of stuff.
So it's more
So
country sort of
yeah,
vibe to
the
it.
folk is entirely
Folk?
Americana.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like an entirely Americana record. So
Nice, man. Well, any ideas when you say you're going to be mixing? So probably, I'm assuming the next Panopticon won't be till 23. I would think, right?
yeah, so Spencer Morris is gonna come up here, and because it's funny, like we've done it in the past where I just send him stuff and then he mixes it and then he sends me reviews, and that's just a giant pain in the ass because
Right.
you end up back and forth. And honestly, Spence and I more or less just like to get together and hang out in the studio, work on the record together.
Right.
I like it that way because I like to spend time with the people I collaborate with because they're awesome people and I enjoy being with them, and I hope they can tolerate me. So
I doubt they'd be there if they didn't. You know what I mean?
right. I mean, well, Spence and I have been friends for so long. I mean, and this
Didn't you
record.
have
Go ahead.
Didn't you have Colin Marston mix the last one, or am I dreaming that?
No, Colin mastered it.
Oh, he mastered it. Okay. All right.
Yeah, and Colin's mixed and mastered a lot of my stuff in the past, and I actually was going to have Colin mix and master this one, but as the album went on and I continued to add more and more and more stuff to it, I kind of began to realize that it doesn't really suit Colin's aesthetic, his sonic aesthetic. And so then I decided to do it with Spence, and then I have some other projects in the future that I want to do with Colin.
Cool.
Because I love the way that Colin mixes too. But it's difficult, and it's cool because I have like two guys that I work with that are totally different styles, and so if I do a record that has like huge ridiculous orchestrations on it and really pummeling, then I can go with Spence. And then if I want to do something more stripped down and kind of almost traditional black metal instrumentation wise, I can go with Colin. And originally the new album was going to be more stripped down, but then like Charlie and I, or my fiddle player, got in the studio together with a bunch of beers and came up with all these cool ideas, and we had way too much fun. And now there's like 20 string instruments, and like
Holy
there's like
shit.
like there's like just dozens of like violins and cellos. There's one song that has a 27 part choir on it, and
Holy fuck, dude.
Me and four other guys did it together. And I mean,
wow.
There's this third or fourth song has a choir that's in Latin, and it's
So
crazy.
you're going full Prog craziness here now.
We had way too much fun. I mean, this is the most fun I've ever had making a record. Like,
awesome.
Me and the guys, the folks because I still play like almost everything, right? Just the cello and then the guest vocalists that came in are the only thing that I don't do on the record. And I do a lot of the choir. Having all these other people involved in the choir really helped to make it, because if it's just you in the choir, it sounds kind of goofy,
Well, you have the same timbre, even though you might be doing different, octaves or different, alto, soprano, whatever you're throwing in there. Yeah, but you're still gonna maybe a listener that's really got good ears might pick up on that. Yeah.
totally. And the other two guys that I got to do the choir with me are way better singers than I am. So, yeah. So I was
Cool.
really happy that, because my voice is all scratchy and hoarse, and these guys were like,
A
powerful,
little self-serving note here. Remind me, I have to get a few samples of my daughter to you. I think when you hear, you're gonna be like, "Whoa!" She's in Asheville, North Carolina right now, and she's writing all her own shit. Mostly, I'd say it's kind of like her shit's kind of like, um, oh God, I'm forgetting her fucking name. Kate Bush, only not as wacky, because Kate Bush is a little wacky, but it's Kate Bush mixed with Nora Jones, mixed with a little Rihanna. I mean, this girl is like blowing my mind. So don't forget to remind me to send you a couple cool tracks from her.
Yeah, yeah. I
Um,
would. Definitely. Maybe tomorrow we can
yeah,
hang out on Zoom, because there was that. When we hang
yep,
out tomorrow. All
yep,
right.
we'll
Yeah,
do
I'd
that.
love to do that. Sounds awesome.
But hey, the purpose we're here, other than to promote your stuff, which is everybody that's out there is here, is probably a fan of yours or a good friend of yours at this point, and they're gonna pick that shit up anyways. And I don't mean shit in a derogatory mean. I just meant they're gonna pick your stuff up no matter what.
Sorry,
So
I
do
correct
that.
you.
Yeah, do that. And but the reason we're here is to talk about this band King's X, because you and I have a love of this band that's pretty
Yeah,
deep. And you and I are
yeah.
about 15 years, we're about 15 years apart in age, but I think it's super cool that we kind of have this connectivity that only good bands and good music allows for. It's such a cool bond. You've seen the memes on TV or on social media where the dude's wearing a Maiden shirt and another dude's wearing a Morbid Angel shirt, and they run to each other and kiss and hug and throw flowers. That's kind of what it is. So we're going to do a little bit about that on this band, King's X. So I am going to jump into my history thing. And unfortunately, because I'm stuck with my phone, I'm going to go black for a minute, Austin, while I read this, because I don't have the ability to remember this. But I'm going to read a brief history of King's X as we know it, and you throw in anything you want once I'm finished about your deep dive on them historically. So give me a moment here. And is that your music in the background?
Yeah.
Okay, it's really loud.
Oh, I just put that on while you were.
Yeah, it's a little loud on my end. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. You were silent. Were you reading?
Okay, you can't hear me when I go black?
No. That's why I
Okay,
put on
so
music.
I'm actually reading while you're doing that. I did not know that. Nobody told me. Well, then because you started playing the music, I'm like, holy fuck, that's really loud. And I'm like, dude. And it just kept playing. I'm like, okay. So when I go black, leave music off. When I come back on, we can put it on.
Oh yeah,
I'm
I
almost,
only put it on to fill the
no, I
space.
got it. I got you. I didn't know that. I had no idea either. I had no idea it was going to do that. And generally, I read off a computer, but I don't have my computer right now. So just give me a minute. Hang on one sec. So you guys cannot hear me when I go black, Marty?
No, nothing at all. Yeah, Marty
Well,
says
that's
the
going to
same
be
thing in chat. Marty says
okay.
he's
That,
talking away. You can
yeah.
hear him.
Wow.
So
That's,
I guess you're gonna have to do it from memory.
I'm going to have to, yeah, I'm going to have to. So Marty, just checking. You cannot hear me when I go black on the screen. Confirm or deny. Because I've done that many times and no one's ever said they couldn't hear me. This is the first time that's ever happened. Wow. Okay, so I'm going to have to riff this really. I may, while you are talking, I'll probably go over. Yeah, I'm probably going to have to go over and look at my notes while you're talking when I blow you up. So, um, shit, okay. So the band was formed in 1979. I'm going to have to do it from memory as best I can. Springfield, Missouri, which is kind of an odd place to form a band that was, pretty big. They had a couple different incarnations of the band. Initially, it was Jerry and Doug, who went there to play for Phil Keggy, which I know that name, but I don't know his music or anything. I think he's a piano player. They did this kind of rhythm section gig with Phil Keggy. Doug was courted by the guys in Petra, who at the time were the big giant Christian rock band of that era, I guess you could say. And then they suddenly, somewhere along the line, they ended up having Ty open for them. And there's even a story that Ty's drummer in the band that he was playing in quit on him before the show and packed his drums up and took them. And Ty had to play drums for the band and borrowed Jerry's drums. Did you ever see that story?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's in the Kid X Now and Then documentary that they did on
Okay.
YouTube, I think.
I don't think I've seen that, man. That's terrible that I missed
Cool.
that. I got to go check that out. So they ended up kind of forming this band called The Edge in 1980, 81 in that area of time. And they were that band for a while, doing a lot of 80s type music. They ended up they changed their name to Sneak Preview and they ended up going to Houston, Texas in 1985. They got tied up with a guy named Sam Taylor, who was loosely associated with the ZZ Top camp and was kind of their manager, producer, savant, I guess you would call it, for the industry. And then that takes a shit in a couple of albums, and we'll talk about that at that time. But anything you want to throw in there? Because it sounds like you may know quite a bit more than me at this point.
Well, so when they were in Missouri and they were doing The Edge, they actually had garnered a pretty large following. And so they were doing like covers and stuff originally. Well, originally they were doing their own material, but then they started doing covers and getting all these gigs playing covers. And there was a couple of bands that were in that area that had kind of like become, regional bands. They weren't like national acts, but they were regional. And so they were touring and playing like bowling alleys and stuff like that with these guys. And so they saw these guys writing their own music. So they decided, well, let's try our hand at that ourselves. And bar owners and stuff like that would be like, well, you've got to play some 40 hits and stuff by artists to continue to have a following. So then what they would do is they would like pick the obscure songs by those people and play that instead, just to kind of stick it to them. And then when they eventually changed their name to Sneak Preview, they did an album
Yep.
with them with the Sneak Preview, and they hated it, so they destroyed the copies of the record. That's why that record's so hard to find. And so when they went out to Houston,
pricey.
they didn't have a name. They didn't know what they were going to do. Then they met Sam Taylor, and Sam Taylor was actually the one who came up with the name. And Sam Taylor is kind of credited as being responsible for the Houston sound, which was there was some bars and stuff that they would all play together with bands like The Awful Truth, and who eventually became Galactic Cowboys, and also I think Monty Colvin's brother is in Atomic Opera, so they all kind of played shows together around that time period. So yeah, and then obviously King's X got really successful, or within their scene, and started touring with international and national headlining acts as direct support.
Right, and Sam got him a contract with Megaforce, which was the label that spawned Anthrax and Metallica,
which was actually a mistake, because when their demo landed at the office for Megaforce, it was, who's the owner who passed away of Megaforce?
John Zazula.
Right, his wife knew someone else named Sam Taylor. She also knew Sam, but knew another Sam Taylor. Thought the tape was from him.
And so she checked it out.
She checked it out, and she was like, "This is really great." So then they brought King's X to New York to open for Anthrax,
right?
And then that's how the whole King's X Anthrax thing started.
Yeah, there's a funny funny story out there. I don't know, you know Eddie Trunk, who knows everybody and is buddies with everybody. I don't mind that. I know he's kind of a little bit of a name dropper, but he alleges that he was involved in that signing. Now, I didn't find anything on that directly. I don't know if that's just Eddie's sort of perception of how things went, but he was an employee of, I think he was the only employee of John and Marcia at that point in time back then. So, yeah. So anyway,
this was directly from them in interviews in the King's X and then doc. It's also detailed in that book, which I left the book upstairs. I brought all my King's X stuff down here into the record room, and I left the book upstairs. And
I didn't even know there was a book.
Yeah, there's a book. It's like a series of interviews, I believe. I haven't read all of that. I've just gone in. I've read a little bit of it. Beck got it for me for my birthday a few years ago, as well as she got me that, and she got me the Doug Tech 21, his little effects pedal.
The box, the box, yeah.
So when you guys hear my bass tone on my records, that's actually Doug's sound.
No shit. Nice. And one little quick note was that the band, you said that Taylor came up with the name King's X. The interesting thing is, apparently King's X was a card game, I believe, that they played in the 40s in Texas. And there was another band in the 60s called King's X that had never put out an album. And according to Ty, they went and got permission to use the band name, which I think that fucking name is so cool. Like, it's just so cool. That was part of the allure when I first.
There was a King's X, King's Crossing, King's X, destination at the train station, and I could see it on the little, where they tell you where you're going, and I took a picture. And
where was that at?
It was in Scotland.
Oh, Scotland.
Yeah, so on the little board that says, this train goes to this place, know. Then so King's X, I took a picture of it, and my wife was like, "You dork."
That's so cool, man. Well, okay, so let's talk about how we came into this band, and I'll let you go first. Because again, you're a bit younger, so I'm assuming like the way you explained it to me, you kind of came into this band when you were a pretty young kid.
Really young, in 1990. So I'm 39. I'll be 40 in March. I was raised by a step parent, my mom and my stepdad. My stepdad he was my dad. So he raised me since I was 8 years old or 7 years old or something.
Wow, that's so cool.
So I was pretty young, and he was always, he was a drummer. He played for a lot of like Memphis rock and roll bands, like rockabilly bands. He was on Sun Records and all that kind of thing. He played in this band called the Jesters. And so he was really always pushing me to play music, really supporting me in my, my musical pursuits. But he also wanted to make sure that I didn't get into like music that was not going to be good for me. And so there was this place called Cat's Music that there was a lot of Cats musics in the South, and there was one on Union. There used to be one on Union Avenue across from the art supply store. And so my parents would take me there, and they would kind of drop me off, because this is like the late 80s. And, I was a little kid, but this was the late 80s. Like this, things weren't so dark. So they would drop me off, and then they would let me dig through the tapes and the LPs. CDs had just come out. So, there was, CDs came in the big box, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like the
long box.
Yeah, the long box. And I would just kind of dig around, and they came to pick me up, and he was like, he had a friend that he worked with, and he said that this had been recommended to him. So they went in and they bought a copy of Faith Up Love because it had just come out, and there were all these people like wigging out about it. And so we got in my mom's car and we put it on, and he said, I got this for you. I think you'll like it. And I was like, my first time I heard it, like the first time I heard We Are Finding Who We Are, I was just like, what is this? This is really weird. Because at that point, all I heard is like pop rock and classic rock and stuff.
Sure.
And so I was like taken aback. And then I wore that tape out. I mean, nice. I took the J card out and read the lyrics so many times that the J card fell apart, and all the print, like this isn't the one I had as a child. This is a different one, but all the print right here had worn off, and there was a white streak.
Shit.
For me,
that's funny.
Taking it out over and over and over again to read the lyrics.
Yep.
And so then after that, for Christmas, my parents got me, my stepsister, like his daughters from previous marriage, each of them got me a King's X tape. They got me Out of the Silent Planet and Gretchen Goes to Nebraska. And because they were older, they were like college age. So I did not grow up with them. And so that record, those two records just blew my mind. I mean, it like, I didn't even know what to think about it. You know what I mean? Like the music was so intense. It was so progressive and unique, and I was just a little kid. And so it really shaped the way that I saw music. It shaped the way that I emotionally like poured myself into music. It shaped my sense of melody. I mean, the other day I sent you that video of me playing Far, Far Away on guitar, and then just tremolo it, and it sounds like one of my, because the chord structures, the chord shapes that tie, like I use those chord shapes because that is the way my sense of melody and music was formed, like from being a boy. Like I grew up with this, and this is just what I hear in my head because this is the first music I fell in love with, was this band. And so, it's crazy that, I'm into extreme metal and that's what I do. My other favorite band is Death, and which is like the polar opposite, but not really. I mean,
but
Symbolic
not really. Is super progressive. Holy shit. And we know where Chuck was going. I mean, he was going more into a traditional metal thing. His favorite band was Sortilege, and I mean, you could hear he was moving that way. So what I hear you saying is that
Watchtower too. He was really into Watchtower.
Oh yeah, Jarzambek and Billy White, and man, that's some fucking seriously good stuff. Texas band, Control and Resist. What's it called?
Control
and Resistance. Control Denied. No. Control Denied was Chuck. What was the Watchtower album? Something Resistance, right?
Oh gosh, what is it called? I have it.
Shit, I'm blanking. Something in Resistance. Fuck.
Hang on. It's right over here. Yeah. I'll just grab it.
This, by the way, Austin, this is your entrance into the olds when you can't remember shit that you should know off the top of your head. It's the olds.
It's already happening.
What's it called?
What's
it called again?
Energetic Disassembly.
But that's not the first one. That's not the first one, is it?
There's one after it. They went on hiatus.
Okay. You know what's weird? I don't think I've ever heard that one, man.
Oh, it rules. Anyways,
Watchtower rules.
Oh, Marty said it. Control and Resistance.
Control and Resistance. That's what I thought. I wasn't.
Yep.
I wasn't 100% sure, but So, anyways, so the upshot of all this is that King's X really informed you as a musician. It really helped shape and guide a lot of paths for you, I would assume.
There's zero doubt. I mean, King's X is the reason that I became a musician.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
pretty fucking
there's no
cool.
doubt. If it hadn't been for them, my interest in playing music would have probably been a passing phase.
That's crazy,
As a little
dude. That's
kid.
so cool. That's so cool.
Yeah,
And I
and
imagine you've spoken to
92.
Doug. You've spoken to Doug and Ty about this when you met him?
So my first time to see them was in 1992 at the New Daisy Theater. I was 9 years old.
That's crazy cool.
I was small enough to where my dad put me up on his shoulders so that I could see the show better.
That's killer.
And yeah, and Galactic Cowboys opened for them, and they were amazing. And then in 1994, I saw them again at the Memphis in May Festival, which I still have my shirts from both of those shows. Let me grab them real quick. So I have.
Do they fit though?
No, God, no. Well, so this is the one. This is the one that I got
Oh
in
yeah, I
92.
love that shirt.
So
Killer.
this is the one I got in 1992, and I wore this until you can see right through it.
Yeah, you can see through it. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's badass.
And then I have another one that I got in 94, but I sewed it down when I was older, when I was real super skinny, and it was like real, and then it has the tour dates.
Yeah. Yep.
It sewed it down, but then I ended up buying another copy of that shirt because it came up on eBay years ago, like 10 years.
So it's an OG tour shirt.
Oh yeah, it's from the tour that I went to. My dates right there, Memphis,
Nice.
325. So
that's so cool.
So yeah, and then so at the Memphis in May show. All right, or wait, it wasn't Memphis in May. When was it? I mean, it was in March. I thought it was Memphis in May. Maybe that was a different run or something. Oh, that was the Pearl Jam run. There's another Memphis date on the back of that, which would have been when they came back through in May. So we were hanging out by the fence, the backstage area, me and my dad, and Doug walked past. My dad saw him, yelled, "Hey, Doug." He looked over, and my dad just kind of pushed me into the fence so that he would
Nice.
see that I, and
Right.
So Doug just walked over, and my dad talked to Doug. Jerry was with him. Jerry came over just after. My dad talked to Doug for a little while. Doug talked to me. He signed my ticket. He gave me a pick. Jerry signed my ticket, and I was super nervous because I was 1994. I was 11 years old.
Yeah,
and
you're a kid.
Yeah, I was a little kid meeting like my heroes,
Sure.
Well, flash forward to when I was in college, they played Strings and Things, and I was like a dirty crust punk, like living in a punk house, didn't have any money, and I couldn't afford to go to their show. So they went and did a meet and greet at Strings and Things. So I went to the Strings and Things and talked to them. They remembered me. They remembered my dad. They were super nice. The guys that ran the drum shop had remembered me from, I'd go in there and bang around on drums and stuff. And so they all threw in and bought me a ticket to the show. And so I went to the show that night. Yeah. So that was Tapehead era. And then I didn't see him again until a few years ago. Me and my bass player from my live band went and saw them in Madison, Wisconsin. Well, we hung out with Doug before the show a little bit, just said hello. And then we camped out at the front. We were right in front of Doug's monitor the whole time. Me and Andy and this one other guy we met, all three of us sang harmony during the entire show and we sang
Yeah.
so loud. At what point Doug was like, Doug goes, I can't hear over these blonde boys in the front, so I'm basing my vocal parts off them. So let's hope that they're in tune. And
That's
I
cool.
missed a line at one point, and Doug looks down at me and he goes, "You fucked up. I caught it."
That's killer.
So
So you've seen him 3 times, or have you seen him more than that? 4 times.
4 times,
4 times.
5 times, 5 times. After that show, we hung out with Doug, and I talked to we hung out with all of them, got pictures. I told him about my dad passing away, and and had a good cry, and it was good. And we saw them again in Minneapolis. I took Beck, my wife, to see them, and my brother-in-law, and that was great. So yeah, I've seen them 5 times. I mean, anytime they're around, I'll go.
I think I've seen them about 12 times, and I've seen them as odd openers for people. Like they opened for Extreme one year back on the XV tour. They went out on a small tour with Extreme. They opened for Porcupine Tree, which is the band I don't know if you know them. I've talked about them, but
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
yeah, good friends of mine. I would be at a Porcupine Tree show tonight in Philadelphia if I was feeling better, but I got the next best option. That's you. So we're close. My first time seeing them though, which we'll get into the albums in a minute. We're kind of reminiscing about all our history with them, but my first time seeing them was for this tour. But the odd thing is, I didn't actually see them. We got to the show in Philadelphia at a venue that's no longer there, and I don't even think it lasted more than a couple of shows. And we're hanging out front. There's probably about 25 or 30 of us, and I'm like, you know how it is, Austin. You think you've got this in on a band that nobody else knows about, and you are like highly enlightened, and that's how I felt about this band because no question, this is my favorite album by them by massive amounts. I'm just going to be honest.
amazing,
It's to me, it's a fucking classic album that is a top
no doubt.
25 album of all time. But we're listening, and all of a sudden, all we hear is like noise, and I'm like, "What the hell was that?" And here, they blew the PA, and it's like 6:30, quarter of 7. They're supposed to go on at 7:30, quarter of 8. I don't remember who was with them, but they were the headliner, as I recall. And the guys walk out, and they're like, "Guys, we're really sorry. We can't play this gig. We can't find a backup board in time. Not a board, a PA board. We can't play the gig. We're gonna have to cancel." And everybody's like, "What?" So I being generally a pretty gregarious, pretty mouthy dude, I'm like, grab your acoustics. You guys got acoustics? And I hear Ty say, yeah, we have a couple. I'm like, do an acoustic set out front here, guys. We'll fucking love it. We'll never ever get to see something like that again. Nobody else will ever get to see anything like that. And they got together and they're talking a little bit, and then Doug walks over and he goes, "That's a good idea, but I don't think we're gonna be able to pull that off." So they hung
Oh,
out.
that's
So I
so
know.
good.
I know. I was so close. And I'm not lying. That was my fucking idea, and they considered it, but I don't think they wanted to be seen by maybe people in the industry at that point in time. We're talking 1989, and
Yeah.
I will tell you the exact date it was. Let me blow myself up here. This is a max slip from inside this album that I pulled out. As you can see, 9/24, 1989, 5:24 p.m. I took $25 out of my account. That's probably all I had in there, to be honest with you, in 1989. And on the backside, look what I've got.
Oh, that's so sick.
Thanks, Doug Pinnick. And I believe is it upside down? Ty Tabor right there. I did not, Jerry didn't sign. I don't really remember. But, dude, I forgot that was in there, Austin. And when I started thinking about doing this back in March, I opened that up. I fucking got so excited. I was like, oh my God, look at that. It's from fucking 30, whatever, however many years ago, 89, 99, 2009, 90, 33 years ago. So that was my
That's so
first
awesome.
meeting with the guys, and they were so cool. I got some pictures, but they were lost in the sands of time because they were actual pictures, not digital shit, no phones.
Mhm.
We did not get the show. The next time I saw them was for the the first tour I think you saw, which was the self-titled album.
Yeah,
Um, and I saw
92.
them, yeah, so I saw them in Philly. I then saw them on Dogman once. I then saw them for Manic Moonlight, which I know is not a favorite of yours. We're going to get there soon here. In Philadelphia at the Trocadero. And after the show, Doug walked out and we were talking and he kind of remembered me. He said he did. I don't think he did, but he said he did. Although I tell you what, I think that guy has a killer memory. I think he knows the hardcore fans. He does. So I'm not so
Every time,
sure. And
I
well,
mean,
I know this
it's
later
cool.
because what ended up happening was after that show at the Manic Moonlight show, it was very cold out. I remember it was probably like December, November, very cold out. Doug came out, he's talking, he's like, "Hey, is there any place to get something, get fish around here?" And I'm like, "I think you can get like a fish dinner at that Oriental place over there." And I'm talking to Ty, and Doug kind of grabs me and goes, "Hey, let's go. We're going to dinner." He just took me to dinner. Bought me a Heineken. I wasn't hungry because it was like 11 o'clock at night and I'd eaten earlier. And we hung out. And that's where I told you he pulled out the big giant bag of pills. And I'm like, what the? And then he's like, vitamins, dude, chill out. It's not drugs and shit like that. It was so funny. So we hung out. We hung out for a good hour talking. And then two people walked in that he knew. And I just felt like I was kind of the third wheel at that time, and I had to get home and I didn't want to keep drinking because I knew I'd be in trouble. And I left. But the next time we ran into each other was for a show that they did locally here in my town. They opened for Extreme, and after the show, they just hung out with everybody. And Doug's like, "I know you from somewhere," and I'm like, "Dude, we had dinner down in Philly after Manic Moonlight." He's like, "That's it. I knew you. I don't know your name, but I knew your face." And he goes, "If I recall correctly, you said you were gonna buy dinner that night." And I'm like, "I said that. I said I was gonna get dinner. Okay." I said, "I tell you what, I'll go buy you guys pizza right now." So I grabbed pizza for everybody in the band that night. It was fucking cool as
Oh,
hell.
that's awesome.
And then I saw him open up for like Porcupine Tree. Oh God, what year was that? That actually might have been like 2007. That might have been before the XV tour. And I was talking to Doug, and he hands me a postcard, says, "Hey, here's my number on there. Now, don't blow me up or anything, but that's my phone number." I had Doug Pinnick's phone number for 2 years, and I never called it. Finally, I got the balls to text him and say, "Doug, this is your buddy from Philly, fish dinner guy that owes you dinner." He never responded, so I got a bad feeling he either got a new phone or he just was like, "I don't know who the fuck this clown is." So
Yeah,
but he knew me when we hooked up in 2009. He definitely knew who I was, and he was every one of the guys is so gracious, so cool. My last King's X story of hanging out with them was a real one-off in 2005. I told you this story. I went to Asbury, the Stone Pony in Asbury Park, New Jersey, because I was doing a lot of work for Porcupine Tree, and they were on this headline tour, and they played Stone Pony. I walked in, I'm standing there watching the band, and suddenly I looked to my left, and literally right next to me was Jerry was standing next to me. I'm like, I gotta say something. I'm like, "Hey man, Jerry, what's up?" And he's like, "Hey, how you doing?" So fucking friendly, so cool, just great
yeah.
dudes, great guys. They really are. Ty, when I talked to him, was I think he might be kind of the quieter one of the bunch. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know. But
I've
he was
seen some
so
reviews. But he talks a lot more.
does he
He's
if he knows you better.
he seems like a really he seems like a really really kind of calm guy. I
Right.
actually watched an interview with him this week where he just kind of told some stories, and they were really fascinating and really interesting. And he talked a lot about his upbringing and the musicians that he was around growing up, and that he was actually a bluegrass picker. And I thought that was pretty awesome.
So we had a lot of experience with these guys. We were very fortunate to meet them and hang out with them at times, and they're really, to my knowledge, very beautiful people. Um, And I think they're going out in October. I believe there's a tour in October that's going on.
Yeah.
I kind of doubt I'll get to go, but we'll see. But are you ready to jump into these albums then and show off stuff?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's start with the sneak preview record.
Right. Now I don't own that. You said you didn't own it either, right?
Oh God, no. I mean, it's
Okay.
you
$200
hardly
plus, I believe.
show it's a lot of money, but
Yeah.
so I inadvertently fibbed to you the other day when I was like, oh yeah, I haven't heard that, and I realized this morning. So I went out for a run and put my headphones in, and I was on my run. I ran like 3 miles, and just to do some more listening, and I listened to that sneak preview record on the run, and I got like one song in, and I was like, holy crap, I have heard this before. I totally did. And the first
Okay.
thing that I noticed off the bat was the very first song has from Faith Up Love, I Can't Help It, that the bridge in the middle of the
Okay.
song where they do that that whole section that
Right.
is in the first song on that sneak preview. And then also from Ear Candy, the song about Doug that Doug wrote about his parents. There's another version of that song that's on that sneak preview record. So
Right.
there's
Right.
definitely stuff that showed up, from that album. But that record sounds like, it doesn't sound like King's X. It's like all the chefs, but not all the ingredients. You know what I mean? Like it kind of sounds like it's got these kind of Pat Benatar kind of vibes to it, and there's like some kind of 70s Bad Company vibes, and it's
I hear I honestly hear some Rick Springfield in there, dude. Just the
mm,
snappiness of the guitar, that Stratocaster sound. It's not Ty's developed sound that he gets into with King's X a little bit later. It's not the same sound.
well, and it's lacking darkness. So that's the
Right.
thing, is that like King's X's full realized sound, starting with their first album, there was all this darkness, all this reverb and brooding moments,
Right. Right.
and sneak preview doesn't have any of that. I mean, it's good for a pop record. It's good for a pop rock album,
Right.
as a late 70s, early 80s pop rock record, you know, totally. But
Well, there
yeah,
was
it's
I mean
definitely,
I mean it's very indicative of that time period. You're talking 1983, so you're talking stuff like The Fix, you're talking Tears for Fears, you're talking Pretenders, things like that. None of it's real exceptional. But I think you were mentioning The Door is Picture, I believe, right? The song The Door on Sneak Preview is Picture from Ear
yeah,
Candy.
it's towards the end of
And
the album, I believe.
and you also hear on that sneak preview album, you definitely hear the seeds of Goldilocks. I forget which track it was. Let
Track
me do
two.
one let me do one thing, Austin. I'm gonna jump into that other thing again. See if I'm quiet again. If I am, then I'm gonna have to I just want to try it for a minute, okay?
Okay.
So hang on. Okay. That I don't know what happened there. I don't know if StreamYard changed their whole trip, but I used to jump into that window and be able to talk and people heard me. Now you can't. So Um, let's talk about that for a collector like a diehard. If you want to lay out $200 on that album, man, I wouldn't. I spend maybe $30 on it if I found it, somewhere in a used bin somewhere, and somebody had no clue what they had and doesn't know what Discogs is. Yeah, I might grab it for 25 or $30. I would not spend crazy money on it. It's just not something I would play enough to warrant it.
Just to say I had it, you know,
Well,
but I'd feel kind of guilty about spending that kind of money on a record that I'm not really going to listen to. Although I do think that Becca would like it, because
she
she would
probably
totally
would,
be in.
yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
she likes King's X, but she also likes lots of like fun music. She's Beck's awesome. She's really fun.
Right.
So
Oh
yeah.
yeah. Your wife. I've met your wife a couple times. She's really cool. So yeah, on sneak preview, it was not really a sneak preview of what was to come because the first King's X album, other than some riffs here and there, it sounds absolutely nothing like sneak preview. Thank goodness. So we're talking 1988 now on Megaforce Records. I had all that information. It was done at Rampart Studios with Sam Taylor and the band co-producing, and I did have the release date, but it's in my other things. So there we go. Man, I
So
love
this
that
is a
cover.
yeah, me too, man. I drew this on
Fucking
my
love that
binder.
color. Nice. Of course.
So this is an OG press.
Nice.
It's a cutout that I got at a record store in Bowling Green, Kentucky when I was visiting my mom.
Nice.
When I was my 1 year that I was in college before I dropped out. Because I'd only ever had it on tape before that, tape and CD.
Okay.
Charlie, my fiddle player, sent me this. He got this in Texas.
Oh,
It's a
sweet.
OG press signed by the
Auto.
band.
Oh, dude. That's
To
killer.
it says to Cindy, signed to Cindy, and then Ty says hi Cindy. So and then Doug says Cindy, keep rocking. So it's funny. My mom's name is Cindy. So
Oh,
I'm
how
just
about that?
so yeah. So there's this, and then
Well,
Metal Blade did these really fancy gatefold
oh, don't show me
reissues.
that. Don't show me that.
They're
I
really
want to
nice.
buy that.
And then I have this, which is a
Yes.
Tour 89.
Yes. Now, is that OG or is that a
Yeah,
reprint?
it's
Reprint. Okay.
it does not fit my fat ass. So this is just one that I got. Like apparently larges were not very large in
Yeah,
1989.
that doesn't look very bad. It looks more like a medium. All right, so
Oh,
I
this
have a
was
quick
like
story on that. I have a quick story on that shirt, and then we're gonna get into this album. I kind of told you 88, summer of 88, I'm working a college, job on second shift, and my buddies and I head down to New Jersey to Trump Taj Mahal of all things. I win a couple $100 there. Long story short, we end up on the boardwalk that next night, and I walk into a store and there is a King's X tour shirt, that exact shirt right there. I'm like, oh my God, grabbed it. I don't know why. I was beanpole, still am beanpole skinny, but I cut the fucking sleeves out on it for some weird reason. I guess that was the thing to be tough back then. And to this
I
day,
mean
Austin, yeah, Austin, to this day, I don't know where that shirt got to. I have no clue where it disappeared to. I'm sure it was probably see through like your album 4 self-titled shirt, but it's just gone. And I do not own a King's X shirt. I got 400 fucking concert shirts in my closet. No joke. I do not own a King's X shirt. That is travesty right there. That is not right. So I got to fix that before I go. I've been looking at. Of course, I want a Gretchen shirt, and it didn't dawn on me when I brought up to them to do the acoustic set at the Gretchen show that fell through. It never dawned on me to ask them for merch. They never even broke merch out. Now a band would be like, "Hey guys, you want to buy shirts? You want to buy CDs? Come on over to the van here, what or the truck or whatever." They never even broke merch out on that tour, so I didn't even have a chance at an OG shirt. So, all right, let's get into Out of the Silent Planet. Give me your history with it and your take on the whole thing. And again, this is an OG. You can tell all the breaks and shit. I'm not super worried about shit like that. But tell me what your whole impression of this album is. This one was where did this one come into your collection? Was it second, third, fourth, or how?
so this album I got them both. I got both Out of the Silent Planet and Gretchen in the same day from my
Mm.
from my stepsisters for Christmas. And
Oh, awesome.
this would have been 1990 or maybe 1991.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time that I heard Out of the Silent Planet, I noticed that it was much darker than the other records.
Way darker.
Especially with that intro and on In the New Age, where
Yeah.
like kind of like what you know,
It
uh,
lurches on you.
totally. And Power of Love is kind of haunting and dark, and Wonder is obviously really, you know, dark, and um, you know,
What is
a Vision.
this? What is this?
Oh,
Does it
what
get
is this?
darker than what is this? So
Well, in
good.
Vision, like in Visions, if you hear him play it live, so that burning down
Right.
um, live show, that their live album that they released from back in the day, when Jerry had his heart attack.
Right.
Um, that was like during that time period, Gretchen tour, and they played Visions. I mean, dude, Jerry blasts on that.
Blast beats.
Like, yeah, he does blasts. He does.
No shit.
Yeah,
Right.
listen to it. He blasts. It's crazy.
You're talking about when it
So
picks up, when it really picks up
yeah,
speed as it accelerates. Yeah, 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 yeah.
and then he blasts at the end. It's kind of crazy. So they were, I mean, they were at the top of their game, man. I mean, like shredding. I mean, incredible. And these songs are all super good. I mean, there's obviously pop songs on it, you know, Shot of Love and King, and I mean, and obviously Goldilocks is like the fan favorite.
Sure.
Um, you know, and anybody who's seen them live knows that, as you and I have discussed in the past. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
I
just a
don't
great
know if
album.
everybody's aware of the fact that now, generally speaking, in the last, I'd say 20 years, Doug rarely ever gets a chance to sing Goldilocks because the crowd sings every fucking word, start to finish. The band play it through, and Doug's kind of the conductor. And when they played a couple shows in July, dude, I'm not gonna lie to you, I pulled up the Webster Hall uh, Goldilocks, and I fucking broke down in tears. I literally started to cry because it's one of the most beautiful things you could ever be a part of when everyone is feeling that vibe in that song. I love that song. I'm not going to make any bones about it. I fucking love that
Experience.
song. It should have been a monster fucking hit for them back then. But this album, as a whole, like you said, there's pop songs, there's dark, heavy songs, there's, even in Visions, it gets a little blasty. But the problem with this album, which I think with the listening public, was they just didn't know what to make of it because it's so good
That's been the
and
problem with this band.
it's been the bane of their existence their entire.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, Austin. When we started in on this project last, talking about it early in the week, and I picked up these albums, I started pulling them up on YouTube to re-listen, right? Just to refamiliarize. The thing that I noticed, and we both talked about this a lot, was those first 5 albums, I literally, without any input, could sing pieces or parts of every fucking song on every album, the first 5 albums. Are there a couple I missed? Yeah, like Faith, Hope, Love. I didn't really remember that song. It's not a favorite of mine. But one or two songs, I think one song or two songs off of King's X. Every song on here, I'm just looking. In the New Age is probably the one song that's the least hummable, the least earwormy on here, but it's kind of maybe the most proggy and weird because it's really
It is.
brooding and it lurches into you and gets you. And then it opens up into Goldilocks, which is, again, I don't have to say it again, but it's one of the greatest songs ever written in the fucking just the existence of time. Goldilocks is, a top 15 track for me forever. And then you get into Power of Love, which, okay, it's got a little bit of a radio bent to it, but it's not really a radio song. And it's heavy and it's quirky, and that's another thing with King's X. There's always a bit of quirkiness to their writing and their songs. But then you get into Wonder. Oh my God, man. And it makes me wonder. And you're just like, there's a sign ahead. It's just here, dude. It's like it'll never leave. These
Yeah.
songs on this album for me. King, Poppy, so killer. My favorite song, What Is This? Just, oh, it's so good. It's so
Yeah.
dark and
It's unbelievable. And it's
foreboding and
really incredibly ahead of its time. I mean, even the production values that they use, like this kind of drenched in reverb, like
Yep.
super atmosphere. I mean, the whole record is, I mean, it's just awesome. I mean, I love it. I mean, I can't even remember how many times I've listened to this record. I mean,
I couldn't either, dude. And I mean, Visions, like you said, is a dark, epic sort of masterpiece at the end. But the part in What Is This, where it's should I go to the front? Dun, 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 dun. Man, those riffs are like they're like here. They're like when I kicked this album in a couple days ago, I was like, fuck yes, man. Oh my God. Haven't listened to this in way, way, way too long. This is a banger of an album, and I'm riffing here because I can't look at my notes, but this is a 9 out of 10 album for me. It's so
absolutely.
close. I don't, like you said, the production on it is thick, but there is a lot of reverb, but it's not the typical 80s reverb like U2, or you're not getting all the chimey guitars. You're getting a real thick sort of claustrophobic atmosphere on a lot of these tracks. And
Totally.
it's a good claustrophobia. It's the kind you want to envelope yourself in and just lose yourself in. Out of the Silent Planet, fucking killer. If you had to rate this, and I don't want to hold you to this, I kind of did a rating system of, X out of 10, but, where's this rank in your, and any other notes you want to go into on songs on that one?
Well, as far as like, I mean, the first 5 albums are indispensable for me. I mean, this has been the soundtrack of my, of my life since I was a kid. And so like, to me, like these are albums that like I could never go without. Like there was a period in my life where I didn't really listen to King's X very much because I was too busy, being a, young 20s, late teens and early 20s crust punk, like, but I still had King's X tapes in my car, when
Yeah,
I was driving around this old beater that I had. Like I had I had 2 King's X tapes in my dashboard. And
of course.
when I would drive from Memphis to Bowling Green to go see my folks, I would listen to King's X the whole way, and I still wore, my old beat up King's X shirt. I didn't, I'd go to punk shows and still wearing that. I mean, it's never left me, never going to leave me. I mean, I'll listen to this band for the rest of my life.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and so like for me, Out of the Silent Planet is kind of where it all started. And I think that as far as it all starting and being a statement, where it all started and that being a statement, I think it's an incredible statement to make. I mean, if it's the only record they had ever made, it would have been a perfect record, but then
I agree. I agree.
they can to get better and keep pushing the boundaries of what they could be.
Right.
And they did that. I mean, they were so hungry when they were young. I mean, they just pushed the boundaries of what progressive metal and hard rock can be. I mean, it's amazing. So yeah, I mean, it's totally like a 5-star record for me.
My
No doubt.
probably my only little ding on it is I do think the beginning of what the fuck, I'm blanking out, in the New Age, it's a little long. That's the only criticism I would have. I get it that they're building a dynamic and a mood, but that would be my only negative about the album. One thing to add too is that for anybody, I'm pretty sure everybody watching at least knows who King's X, but if you don't, when Austin and I say prog metal or we bring up that label, be careful there because this is not Dream Theater. This is not Fate's Warning.
Yeah.
It's not that kind of prog metal. They're metal, they're heavy, but they're not wanky and they're not going off into tangential masturbatory, keyboard and guitar and drum solos. It's not like that at all. They're more progressive in the way they're writing their songs, I would say.
Yeah, I mean,
where they take in all. Sorry, go ahead.
it's more of a hard rock formula.
Right, but
You know
what
what I
they're
mean?
doing is Yes, but what they're doing is what King's X has always done so well is they've mixed a lot of different genres to kind of create their own sound. There is 60s pop in here. There's a lot of Beatles sound in there with the harmonies. There's even a little bit of punky edge at times, but they've always
Totally.
kind of come out not sounding like anybody else. And that's why a lot of people say, oh, well, they started the whole grunge sort of thing. They just weren't in Seattle. Yeah, I can see that to a degree because Ty was using drop D tuning, but that was really the only thing that, if anything, they might have a little bit more in common with like saying Alice in Chains, where
For
there's
sure.
a more of a
Jeff
focus
Ament,
on song structure. Who?
Jeff Ament from Pearl Jam used 12-string bass
Right.
and openly adores King's X. I mean, for sure, like Soundgarden were super influenced by them. Alice in Chains for sure.
Yep.
I mean, they were more of a. I mean, like I always kind of thought of them as like Texas's answer to Rush, in the sense that like they're a trio, they're
Yep.
progressive, but they. I mean, King's X at times is like almost kind of got this like Sabbathy,
Yes.
brooding and heavy and dark, but then these epic like Beatles esque harmonies. But then in addition to that, you know, Doug's kind of like almost gospel like vocals. I mean, there are so many times he sounds so Hendrixy,
Oh,
and
for
and it's
sure.
a mixture of a lot of different music,
Yeah.
and
Hendrix is a huge
the dimension.
Well, Hendrix was a huge influence on him. And if I remember correctly, they did that tour. Ah, man, it might be almost 15 years now, where they did a Hendrix experience thing with Buddy Miles and Billy Cox. They took that out on the road, and Doug was the bass player and singer for a lot of that. That's going way back to like maybe 05, 06, maybe even earlier. But yeah, so I mean, I just wanted to make sure we noted that anybody that doesn't know King's X, you're not getting a Symphony X album here. You're not getting a Dream Theater Train of Thought album here. Not that there's anything wrong with that. They're those are good bands, but it's yeah, okay. Cake Monster has a good point. It's not King Crimson Prague, but it's because it's far more groovy, and that's where I would say you're right. There is some Rushisms there, but Rush is never like a groove band. You're not really gonna except for the first album. The very first album, they've got a little bit of that bluesy Zeppelin thing going on, but Rush really changed. And the thing about King's X is that while all their albums sound like King's X, they don't sound the same. There's a lot of
No,
variation in these albums. So, anything more
well,
on Out of the Silent Planet?
period.
Go ahead again. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I was saying there's like a large time period too, and they were trying so hard to make it in the mainstream, and
They
so
were.
unfortunately throughout their career, there was definitely some times where they kind of were either pressured by record labels for sales, they kind of abandoned some of their sound, and also tastes change as you get older. I mean,
Sure.
I think about the music that I made when I was younger. The first two Panopticon records that are all like, super culty black metal, doesn't sound anything like what I'm doing now, and so
You
and,
know the
and I just think you can't be expected to sound the same
Oh yeah.
throughout
Oh
your
exactly.
career.
Yeah. Yeah. Marty makes this point about the Beatles, and that's true. However, the funny thing about that is that Doug is not really a Beatles fan. And I would
Yeah,
say
I watched an
he's
interview
made
about
that
that.
very clear. He's said that a lot in interviews. And I don't remember his reasoning for it. Maybe you do. But the strange thing is that the songs that I hear more of the Beatles stuff going on are usually collaborations between Ty and Doug, or they're Ty songs, because Ty definitely has that Beatles vibe going on in his voice and in his the way he constructs his songs and everything. So, anything more on Out of the Silent Planet on the individual tracks you wanted to note?
Well, to answer your statement just a second ago, I did watch that. I watched a interview with Doug where he talks about that actually this week, and I had never heard that he wasn't a Beatles fan. I kind of always assumed he was,
Right.
but to find out the reason he didn't like the Beatles was because he felt like the Beatles kind of jacked African American musicians, kind of bit from them, like Chuck Berry and
Really?
yeah, and Little Richard. You know how Paul always does the woo. That's
Oh yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
Little Richard,
That's
dude.
Little Richard. Yeah.
And once I heard Doug say that, I was like, oh my god, I never realized that like the Beatles were kind of taking massive influence from black music during that time period. And so hearing Doug give this interview where he explains that, I was like, whoa, I mean, that's like a really heavy thought that I'd never really considered. And I was talking to my wife about it today. I was like, and she's like, oh my God, like once you hear that, you can't unhear it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's
I mean,
kind of
it's
like
crazy.
it's kind of like Zeppelin. I mean, Zeppelin ripped off those first 3 Zeppelin albums are just complete Muddy Waters, Lightning Hopkins, all those Delta blues musicians. Jimmy is an amazing sonic crafter of music, but he's not the greatest guitar player overall. He's kind of sloppy, which is cool. I don't have a problem with that. But he stole so much from, fuck when the levee breaks. That's a Delta blues song that I'm sure he lifted pieces and parts from things that he heard. But I happen to like the Beatles a lot. I was a huge Beatles fanatic at one point in time, so I don't listen to them much anymore. But when I hear them, doesn't bother me. I'm not one of those guys like, oh my god, I can't hear Strawberry Fields Forever. It's a fucking amazing song. I'm gonna listen to it. You know what I mean? But
Well,
I don't put those.
I would break into that at the end of like, have you ever seen? They were on, what was it? Who was that guy? Not Dennis Leary, Dennis something in the 90s. I have a VHS cassette tape that my dad dubbed and gave to me, where they played on some late night show. And at the end, after they played It's Love, at the end, he starts playing a riff from Strawberry Fields.
Oh yeah, well,
And I thought that was kind of cool.
Ty has to be a mega Beatles nerd. There's just no way I wouldn't believe that. I've never seen him say he's not a Beatles fan. So, all right, any more? Yeah, want to get on to this one? Let's get rolling on that one.
That opening has all that sitar at the beginning. That psychedelic kind of thing that the Beatles ended up doing, and Doug addressed that, and he talked about how the Beatles kind of came into their own and started getting weird and doing their own thing.
Sure.
Well, one of the things I love about this album is that these guys went full weird. I mean, the title track or the Out of the Silent Planet, which is the first song, the title of the previous album. I mean, that song like opens with this like dark, brooding sitar and reverb and 12-string bass and these like kind of dissonant harmonies. I mean, it's just really an incredible song.
Oh, it's killer.
And then they give you Over My Head, which is kind of takes the place of Goldilocks, where they give you like a relief. They give you something dark to start the album, but then they give you a pop song to kind of chill it a little bit. So I have this as an OG pressing. And then I have this one, which is also
another signed one.
Yeah, I got it at the same place as the other one. It's from Texas. And then
is that Cindy's? That's Cindy's? That's Cindy's.
It was album? Cindy's, yeah. And then this
you know what I'm gonna start saying? Cindy's loss is your game.
Yeah, that's right. And then this is the Metal Blade reissues again.
Oh, nice.
Version. It's same cover front and back, but the world's most boring gatefold.
Yeah, it's pretty lame.
Well, but it has the story. It has the Jerry wrote.
Right. So, I guess we should mention that the title of this album came from one of their roadies. One of the roadies was doing. I don't know who. Maybe you do, but one of the roadies was. Yeah, you ought to call it Gretchen Goes to Nebraska. Something stupid like that, and like they Jerry was like, you know what? Let's do that, and they did, and it's fucking perfect.
Oh, it's great. I mean, I love how sometimes they are kind of out of left field and sometimes they don't really make much sense, and I think that kind of makes it so. But I mean, this record is amazing. Like this record kind of starts to get political at times, and and I like that. Like, like Mission obviously is kind of this very skeptical of religion song, especially because of they were pretty open about their Christian faith, even though they were attributed as a Christian band because of Sam Taylor, but they never wanted that, that label. But I loved how, even though they were a band that were people that were religious, they openly questioned it on
Right.
all the records. And
Yep.
I definitely think that this record's got some kind of 80s vibes. Like Send a Message is super 80s sounding, anthemic, and but then there's also like these kind of Beatles-esque acoustic songs like The Difference. I mean, there's not a bad song on this record. Every single song on this record is perfect. I mean, I've listened to this record once again more times than I could count. I know every lick, every second
Yep.
of the album, and it is amazing. Summerland, that riff is so hard to
Uh,
play on
it is.
guitar.
It's tricky. It's very tricky, man. It's tricky as fuck.
It's very hard.
So is Goldilocks. The way the counter bass is moving in the back. I mean, it's not hard, but you have to really focus on what you're doing. It's
Yeah,
not just throwing bar chords out there, and that's the thing with Ty. He's always filling, because they're a 3-piece and there's not another guitar or a keyboardist or something. Ty is always filling a lot of space, as is Doug with the 12-string, 8-string bass, where he's got those tonalities that you don't normally hear on a lot of rock records. And there's a lot
he's
of
actually
tonalities that are different.
he's never used 8-string on anything. I read an interview where he talks about that. It's 12-string only,
Oh,
and
it
he
is
got the
12?
12 strings.
I
It's 12
saw him
strings,
play
and he
the.
got.
I was gonna say, I was sure I saw him play the 8-string on that Manic Moonlight tour, like live.
Really? I don't know. I read an interview where he said that he didn't play, but this also may have been an old interview where he said that he didn't play 8 strings because he never found one that he liked, but he got
Nah.
the 12 string because of the bass player for Cheap Trick.
Oh,
He
right,
played
Tom Peterson.
strings, so that's where he kind of fell in love with that. And I think the 12 string is integral to their sound.
I
mean,
agree. It really is.
And all those Houston sound bands played them. I mean, Galactic Cowboys, the Awful Truth, Atomic Opera. I mean, all those bands played 12 strings. I
That
think
I
that
did
was
not
part
know, actually.
of. I think that was part
of
of
the sound. Any other tracks you want to mention? I'll go through my quick, like off the top of my head thing.
No, I mean it's I love everything about it. I mean, Pleiades, I covered that.
Yeah, I finally got a chance to listen to it. It's super cool.
Yeah, I mean it's the Burning
Where'd that
Down.
go? Was that digital only?
Yeah, but it is going to come out on a split, on a split 12-inch.
Okay, that's what I thought Martin said.
Yeah. So,
okay.
But I have to record another song to go with it. So,
well, let me rip into this album quick, so we're not here till 4 a.m. Because we could probably go that long. I'm pretty sure. It starts out with "Out of the Silent Planet," like you said. To me, that's probably their most prog rock song, because it's just very King's X, but it's somewhat unorthodox with the sitars and the way the chorus comes in, and man, it's just so good, man. The part where they're doing the in the back, da 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 da. You're just like, fucking A, man. How did they think of doing that? When I listen to this album, I'm like, how did they think of doing that in that song? Like, where did that come from? What was Over My Head's probably the most accessible track. It was the video. It was the, it's a great song. Got a blistering solo by Ty in it. I think it's probably the first. I think it was the first King's X song I learned how to play. Goldilocks might have been it, but it was in that realm. It was probably the second song I learned, and it's a fun riff, man. It's a great riff to play. It's smooth, just when he goes into the piano part where he's going all gospel. I can hear it. Can you hear it? It's just like, whoa, just so good. And you wouldn't think that would work in a song, but it works perfectly. Summerland, man, right there with Goldilocks. Right there with Goldilocks. So
Yeah.
it gets you right in the heart, man. You feel that song. You feel for me it's a very nostalgic track too. And one, like you said, that's a little tricky on guitar. Learning that song wasn't like, oh, I'm just gonna sit down and nail this in 3 minutes. It was a little trickier than that. I can feel the difference. I love that song, man. It's a Thai track. It's so Thai. It's
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. It's just got these beautiful harmonies on it. Doug coming in over the top at one point when they're doing the I can feel the difference. He's up top of that doing really cool stuff with that voice. I'll Never Be the Same, killer track. Mission, so dark, so scathing. It's clearly questioning religion and preachers, and obviously says the preacher man in it. Fall on Me is a killer track, and then my favorite
Oh yeah.
track, my favorite fucking all-time favorite King's X track is Pleiades. It is just a tour de force of everything. It's god damn, it's so good. It's just so
Yeah,
good.
it's unbelievable. I mean, the
I
whole
mean, I don't
record
really
is,
know what else to say. It just kills, It's just a
yeah,
killer track. Great guitar on it. I think it's about some religious figure that was burned at the stake, right?
yeah. That's what I interpret from it. I actually think
And
it's
then you got
about a religious figure. I think it's about um, God. I wish
or
John
was it
Kerr
a
was here. Who is it that said
or
that the earth was round and that it goes around the sun and
Copernicus, right?
and then they imprisoned him and wanted him to denounce it. And that's where the line, he tried to tell us all the world was spherical. They burned his body, but not his soul.
Right.
Um, yeah, so
Let me look.
I don't think it's necessarily about religion as much as it's about scientific advancement. And that song was also one of the first songs that he wrote. They listened to it on a plane while they were going to be the
Right.
backup band, that Christian pop guy. And so they were trading their tapes with each other, and Pleiades was the first song that Ty wrote in the King's X sound, and that's basically what started the whole thing. So that's why that song, is so important to them, because it was, they were like, well, this is what we should do.
Uh,
So
Austin, can you hear me?
yeah, I can.
Okay. So I'm not in my notes, but for some reason I can't go on the internet. I mean, these lyrics, man, when I look up at the stars at night, what could I find beyond the light? 100 million worlds that we ignore. Who can restrain Pleiades or know the laws of heavenlies? How many times have we been wrong before? Just so good. Just so good, man. Like, I again, you're going to hear me say that with a couple other tracks that are coming up. I'll probably contradict myself and go, "Oh, that's my favorite track," but
Yeah,
that is
it's
my
hard to.
favorite King's X track. The
It's
Burning
really hard to.
Down. The Burning Down is really a beautiful track too. Such a cool ending to
Unbelievable.
the album. Very serene, almost meditative ending to that song, and it washes over you. It's how long is it? 5:15. Beautiful track, and Send a Messages. Send a Messages kind of more like the one of the poppier songs, like a Shot of Love song, but it's great. So this is
Yeah,
a
it's like an 80 PM.
it's an 11 out of 10. It's 11 out of 10.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
And I will say, Charlie Benante, if you're watching, I know you're not. I know he loves this album, thinks it's their classic, which I think most King's X fans kind of feel that way for the most part, but they didn't peak there. They could have, but they didn't. They went from Out of the Silent Planet, which is, pretty perfect for most fans. They went to the next phase, and that's going to be Faith, Hope, Love, which comes out in 1990.
So this
Let
was
me
the
look.
first record that I got by them. So this is an OG pressing, um, single LP, and then here's the Metal Blade reissue, gatefold, and then I also have over here the cassette version as well.
Oh, sweet.
And let's see what else. Oh, I forgot to show this. We'll go back real quick. This is a tour 1989.
Oh yeah.
Gretchen shirt.
You got that on eBay or?
Yeah.
Okay.
This was an eBay one.
So good.
Yeah, and then I have the reissue one that they did last year, a couple of shit. 2014 when I got this. Time's gone by. So yeah, this is a reissue. I think I might have actually got this. I think I bought it online. Either that or I bought it at a show. And then in Europe for their European tour a few years back, they redid the original shirt. So
nice.
It's just like, yeah. And then it says on the back.
Oh, nice.
So that was kind of cool. Anywho, that brings us to back to Faith of Love. So I have my Faith of Love shirt, and then I also have,
bro, you got a lot of King's X shirts. I feel very woefully inadequate, man.
the obsession is so deep. And then this is from that tour.
That's killer, dude. Oh, I like that one. And I'm not a white shirt guy, but that one actually looks pretty cool.
So that's all the King's X merch I have. Other than that, I have my patch that's on my vest, but that's about it. So
okay, so tell me about Faith, Hope, Love. What's your vibe there, other than it being your first?
It was the first one, but to me, I mean, it was. I feel like it's a totally different record than the other records. The tone is different. You know, it's not as. It's a lot drier of an album.
Agree.
I also feel like it's a lot more palm muting and intricate guitar work. I mean, Talk to You has this kind of almost like Meshuggah-y vibe with all the polymeter rhythm changes and then the title track Faith of Love is like super dark and mysterious and it has these
it's like a doom metal track almost.
Weirdly. Yeah, it has all these dissonant parts midway through. He's like slow, and then the chugs.
Yep.
I mean, I think that Faith, Hope, Love was their first record to be truly a metal record. I mean, it has like thrash parts on it. It has super fast. I mean, but it also is the first album to have a Jerry song on it, which Six Broken Souls, which is an amazing song.
Which is a killer song. Yes.
Oh, it's fantastic. And I mean, it's, I'll Never Get Tired of You is like a really sweet love song. I always enjoyed Doug's love songs. There's something really soulful about them. Like you could tell that you could tell he's not just into rock-based music. Like you can tell that he totally listens to like R&B and that kind of thing.
Gospel.
Because some stuff shows up, And then the story behind Mr. Wilson is really interesting with, they had somebody who had accused them of plagiarism when, he, tried to sue them, but they hadn't done anything of the such, but he saw a chance to jump on their coattails because they were, that line at the end, like, pay the price, the apple's ripe, I'm going to Japan, because they were going overseas and touring. And so he was like, the guy was like, yeah, this is my chance to get in on this. And they were really pissed off, And
I hate to admit this. I don't know what you're speaking of. I never heard this.
Oh, Mr. Wilson, but that song is about Mr. Wilson is about who fabricated this story that they had like stolen his music. So he like tried to sue them.
Wow.
And he cooked up this frivolous lawsuit. And so that's what that song is about. And
dude, I did not know that. That's the first time I've ever heard that. That's cool to hear.
And so when you go back and listen to the lyrics of that song again, think about that. It could be my son on the chopping block, but I'm sure he'll understand, like how it affects your family when your music career is in question. That's affecting, that's affecting an entire family of people. That's affecting, you're taking bread off somebody's table when you do those kinds of things.
Sure.
So it's pretty fascinating. There's a lot of personal stuff on this record, but then there's also some spiritual things, and and then obviously Legal Kill was really controversial because at the time, Ty was writing about his pro-life perspective on things, which I read that he's changed his view on that. And so a lot of people got really, up in arms. It was a hot debate. And when he wrote Legal Kill, that was kind of him processing through his views and what he thought. And then years later, he changed his view. And or to my knowledge, I read an interview where he said he didn't agree with those lyrics anymore, but he wasn't so explicit about what he believed in regards to it. And so the Faith, Hope, Love definitely had some kind of somewhat controversial and dramatic moments. So yeah, pretty interesting.
Okay. Yeah, I
album.
gotta say,
the Sam Taylor thing about 1 Corinthians chapter 10 being on the record, which they didn't
know
want.
about it. Right.
And so that started a total shitstorm between them and Sam Taylor.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole history behind it all. There's a lot of turmoil in that record.
It sure seems like it. And I mean, I'm gonna be upfront about it. Of the first 5 albums, this is my least favorite. It has some of my favorite songs, but it has some of my least favorite songs of that era. I'm going to go on record right now as the 9-minute Faith, Hope, Love. I try, but I just cannot get into that song for some reason. I don't know why. It just isn't immediate for me, and I have to work at it a little bit. And so I will tell you that this actual album, I got this copy maybe about 3-4 months ago. This was the one that was missing from my collection because I actually sold it when I purged a lot of my CDs way back when, which once I plugged it in and got it in the mail, I ripped it open, threw it in the car CD, and I'm driving to a doctor's appointment, and then We Are Finding Who We Are. Holy fuck, that song just kills. Oh my God, it's so good. Just such a kick-ass song. What a way to open the album. It's Love was the MTV single. It's good. It's really cool. It's Thai. It's fun. I'll Never Get Tired of You Again. That's a ballad, a Doug ballad. It's something about it. Super cool. I love it. Fine Art of Friendship. You hear a song like Fine Art of Friendship. You hear that title, you're like, it's got to be a goofy song. It's a great song. It's killer. Mr. Wilson. Mr. Wilson's Thai, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a Thai song.
Great song, which I did not know the history of. Moan Jam, not going to lie. It's probably one of my least favorite songs of theirs. I don't know why. It just kind of...
Yeah, but the video of them playing it at Woodstock 94 is totally insane.
Well, okay, yeah. Their whole performance at Woodstock, we'll talk about that then.
That's some wild shit. I mean, I got to see that. Like, my parents let me stay up, so I could watch it, and I was like, holy crap,
Yeah, I was shocked they were on that bill, but Six Broken Soldiers, first Jerry song. Jerry's definitely the psychedelic 60s 70s nerd, but his voice is very different. He's got a very high voice, very soft kind of delivery. This song is beautiful. It's right up there with one of my favorites on the song. I love it. What else we got on here? I Can't Help It. Come on, man. Get out of here. That song fucking rules, man.
Yep, no doubt.
Okay, I'm not going to lie to you. I kind of forget Talk to You. Wow.
Oh, it's I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. It's got the polyrhythm.
See that? Like I said, Austin, there's 1 or 2 tracks each album that I just that didn't stick or I missed, and that's one of them. I love Everywhere I Go. We Were
That
Born to Be
song,
Loved. We Were Born to Be Loved is killer song, man.
it's
And then,
amazing.
like I said,
And it
Faith,
also
Hope,
does
Love is
that
kind
pop
of not.
thing.
Yeah, I apologize. When we start talking, there's just enough delay that you just got to say "shut up" and I'll shut up. Legal Kill, Legal Kill, another Thai album closer. Not as good as The Burning Down, in my opinion, but still very, very good. Acoustic and shows the diversity in this band. As I said, I picked this up for $4, and it's an OG Megaforce too. But the weird thing is, when I got it, and I don't know, you probably can't see it very good in the light. The cover is kind of more, almost got a purplish hue to it. So I started to dig around to see if maybe I got a bootleg, but it's not. Because the actual CD is the Megaforce copy. So um, this album, if I was scoring it, is probably honestly, it's probably a 7.5 for me. It's still exceptionally good. It's necessary listening, but it's probably my fifth favorite of the first five. You're probably like,
So
fuck this guy.
for me, the first five albums are all 5-star albums for me.
Wow.
Yeah, I just love them. I mean, but Faith Hope Love is definitely the odd record out.
Yes. Yes. Good way to put it.
Is it
Good way to put it.
different than the others? Because immediately following that, in '92, is self-titled album, which so this is a European pressing of the vinyl. I have never seen an American vinyl pressing at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, there's this reissue that just came out a few years ago, which is a Metal Blade of the album with it's got a gatefold.
So you're saying you don't think Atlantic actually put this out on vinyl when it first came out?
No, I don't. I don't think they did in the U.S. I don't think they did in the U.S. There was the tape.
Well, vinyl was kind of dead at this point in the U.S.
Right. There was a tape and CD, and then this was I think this was the Euro version.
Okay.
And it's got the Junior's Gone Wild, which is the bonus track that was on the soundtrack of Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Okay, I've never heard that. I hate to say.
Oh yeah. It's a banger. It's really good, but it's totally like, it was in the soundtrack, and but yeah, I love this record, and I do feel like this record is kind of the album. It kind of follows the Gretchen sound, but it's got But I mean, there's some Faith, Hope, Love moments on it, like What I Know About Love is pretty, and Chariot Song is pretty Faith, Hope, Love it. They're more like techie, more metal. But there's definitely some some kind of Gretchen stuff, like World Around Me, Big Picture. Not Just for the Dead is totally a Gretchen type song. There is on What I Know About Love, there is literally the most insane guitar solo. On this Chariot Song is awesome. That kind of odd signature. It's like got some really dark moments and really heavy moments. I mean, definitely this album, even though it does kind of feel more like the first two, it is the heaviest of the first four. And it is the final. Sure. It is the final Sam Taylor record and the first on Atlantic.
Yep.
And I remember the day when it came out. It was like the week that it came out. I went into the record store. I didn't know there was going to be a new King's X album, and I just had a hunch. I don't know why. I looked in the case, and there it was. And I was like, "What?" So I grabbed it. I had $6 or whatever. I got it, and I got back to my parents' car, and I listened to it, and I was just blown away by it because it was still fresh and new. It was dense and melodic. I mean, it was just amazing. I mean, and it had the riffs were elaborate. The riffs were really elaborate and unique. I mean,
Yeah.
it's an amazing record, man.
Yeah, I as I said, when Faith Hope Love came out, sorry, I'm trying to dig through this thing and dig out this jacket. When Faith Hope Love came out, and I remember very distinctly the MTV video for It's Love, and it was like, all right, man, don't be going too poppy here. That's what I was thinking. Don't be going away from that darkness. And there is quite a bit of darkness on Faith Hope Love, but it's different, and you nailed it better than I could have. That it's just got a different vibe on it than those first two albums. This
Yeah,
harkens back to those first two albums, but treads its own path. It definitely, this kind of, when I got this and I threw it on, of course I think there was the video for Black Flag, which I
yeah,
love that song. That's such a killer tune. Um, when I got this and I popped it in, the world around me is just such a driving, suck you in type of track, right? But the song nobody ever talks about on this album, I think, is Prisoner. That
yeah.
song is so fucking good.
It was
Oh,
co-written with somebody else. I can't remember who co-wrote
uh,
that. I'm gonna look in the liner notes.
probably on the liner notes, yeah. Huh. I'm not seeing
Maybe
it.
it's on the back of the first
But it's a
press.
good thing. I'm not seeing it, but it's a good thing I opened this because I just found something I want to show you then.
Oh yeah, Taylor and Warren.
I wonder if it's Diane Warren, the songwriter. It has, it definitely has more of like an edge, like they were trying to get it on the radio. And I don't know that it ever went to the radio. I don't think it did that I'm aware of. Maybe it did. Maybe I don't know about it. But Diane Warren, I bet that's who that is. Um, I'm gonna I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that might be my favorite track on the album. Weirdly, there's just something
It is
quirky about it. It's such a cool track. And then you get into you get into the big picture, which is such a cool kind of brooding Doug track that's just gorgeous. Lost in Germany, so much fun, man. The riffs on there, the angularity of the riffs, you'd be like, yeah, that can't be fun to listen to. Wrong. Um, Chariot song, okay. Ooh song, I don't love both those tracks, but not just
oh
for the Dead
man.
picked up. What's that?
I said I love those two. I love how Chariot Song is so frantic and so techy, and
It
it's got
is.
that
It
in the
is.
middle, the section
Right.
in the middle. It's so cool. Like I mean, it almost kind of grinds. Like it's that super fast part in the middle,
Yeah,
and then
those are the
all
two
tech.
that aren't those are the two that aren't standing out to me right now for some reason. Again, my notes may say something very different. I'll probably send you my notes on what I took because I took like crazy notes on these and I can't fucking use them. That pisses me off. But not just for the
Why don't
Dead.
you email it to yourself real quick, and then you can log into your email because you
Oh
can use
shit,
the internet. Heard.
dude! I didn't even think of that. Fucking A, man,
Yeah.
you're brilliant. Yeah, hold on. I can
Well,
send that note.
while you're doing that, I'm gonna go hit the bathroom real quick while you're doing.
Yeah,
I'll be right
yeah.
back.
For anybody that's still hanging in out there, we're nerding out to the nth degree here. Um, Cake Mass, that's a great point. I don't disagree with that at all. That is kind of showcases all the stuff that King's X does really well. I agree. Great song too, man. Such a good tune. Not, it's not heavy metal. This channel isn't all about heavy metal. It's about, a lot of different musical genres and bands that I dig. But yeah, that's a good point. Lost in Germany. It really defines the King's X sound a lot. So does Pleiades. So does Out of the Silent Planet. So does Goldilocks. You could go on and on. I was talking to one of the guys posting here. That was brilliant. I texted it to myself. You are a scholar, my friend. Holy shit. All right, I'm gonna give you I'm gonna
Oh, you got to email it and then use the browser. You're cut out. Yep.
Are you fucking kidding? I cut out again?
Yeah,
All
but you
right,
got
hang
to
on a minute.
email it to yourself so that you're using your browser.
Dude, it never did this to me. It never did.
But that's what I was saying. Like if you were able to pull up the lyrics on your browser, so that if you log into your email on your browser, then you should be able to just access your notes via your email.
Yeah, hang on one sec. I just emailed them to me. Let's see if that works. Let's
That's
see.
interesting.
This is getting tricky. I did not have this happen. I'm wondering if you can hear me right now, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I'm wondering if so you can't hear me? You didn't hear me?
No.
All right. Well, dude, we're fucked. I did that and it didn't work. So I don't know what's going on. I went through my browser. So anyway, that's that. I'm not gonna dick around with it. I could send them to you and you could read them, but that would kind of defeat the purpose. So I'll just kind of go through this. I got a couple more comments on one or two more tracks. Uh, Black Flag, killer song. What I Know About Love, killer song. You said the solo exactly. Dream in My Life.
Yeah.
I love that song, man. Dream in My Life is just a great. I don't even know what. It's just a great song. It's like almost like a singer songwriter sort of vibe to that one. Like
Dude,
Ty
the
with
production
Ty always
drums on that
Ty.
song is
Yeah, it's so good.
like,
And then he ends up with another acoustic track, which was a real sort of thing they were doing the first several albums. Um, dude, I have not opened this album in a long time. Like pulled the CD out. Look what I found.
oh,
There's
sick.
Doug, and then there's Ty, and there's Jerry. So I did finally get Jerry's on this tour. I finally got his signature. I didn't know they were in there. I just opened. I'm like, oh fuck, look, I don't remember that. So I'm old. What can I say?
That
Um,
rules.
this is a 9 out of 10 album for me. It
No doubt.
restored my faith. Not that I lost it. That Faith, Hope, Love was that bad, but it was a little bit of a drop off for me. And I was like, okay, my one of my big bands is back. This fucking rules. And I would almost, in a lot of ways, I'd almost point people to come to this album first if they're or Dogman, one of those two. Um, if somebody came to me and said, which would you recommend you start with? It might actually be this album, surprisingly. So, all right, so we're up to Dogman, which, again, I had all the notes on production and release dates and all that stuff. That year, that came out, what, 94? 5?
Yep. My first CD copy of this was a Yellow Dog, and then my second CD copy, which I still have somewhere, was a Blue Dog.
Oh, nice.
The only one I've never owned is the Green Dog, and I don't know what happened to my my yellow dog. I think it's at my mom's house,
Okay.
and it's got a ticket signed by
Oh, does
Doug
it?
and Jerry, and it's got one of Doug's picks in it. But
Here's the
yeah,
yellow dog you're talking about.
this record was like, I felt like it was a stylistic departure, like big time for them.
Yep.
Like the progressive elements were gone.
Pretty
Like
much.
this
Yep.
record is so heavy
Yep.
and so much like bigger, down tuned, like super thick. I mean, it's really like a grunge record.
Yes, it is.
Um,
Big time. And you got Brendan O'Brien on production from, Pearl Jam, and I believe he was involved with Soundgarden before, and probably Alice. That was like their first big time producer that they pulled in.
yeah, I mean, it was really shocking, and seeing them live during this era, I also kind of felt like their live show kind of changed a little bit. You know, they were heavier, they were more aggressive. I mean, it was amazing. It was a great album.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Want to talk about any specific tracks? Obviously
Yeah, for sure.
Dogman was the big one right out of the gate, and it's so fucking heavy, man. So heavy.
For me, highlights for the album, I love Shoes. I
Oh
love
yeah.
the big harmony at the beginning, but I love that big, huge, like Sabbathy riff. Black the Sky, for
Oh,
sure, because it's just so pissed off and so wrathful. I mean, what Doug was going through at the time, like being ostracized by his community for coming out, and you could tell that like he was really kind of taking his frustration out. Don't Care, obviously. I mean, Don't Care is a total banger, and it's
yep.
angry and dark. Human Behavior kind of follows suit, kind of same feeling. Cigarettes is I think Cigarettes kind of sounds like a Ty song, but there are no songs on this album where Ty sings lead, like zero.
That's true.
You know,
Yeah, this is a predominantly a Doug album in terms of where the writing was coming from. They may have been co-writing on stuff, but it's just got that. Every song has a groove to it. Every song has a nasty. How do I put it? It's got a nasty stank on it. It's just like, ooh,
yeah,
ooh, I hear that. Oh, ow. You just get those moments of riffs or vocal harmonies where you're like, oh, that just was perfect. The production's very thick. It's it's grungy a little bit. For me, I love Shoes is a fucking killer song, man. Oh my God. Like you said, the way it opens with the harmony vocal and then gets in a down, 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 down. It's so good. Pretend. I like Pretend. It's a good tune.
mm,
There's no bad songs on here. The Go to Hell thing's a little weird, and Manic Depression I could have done without that, to be honest with you. I'm not a huge fan of bands covering big popular songs like that one, but I get why. It was a Hendrix tune. I love
yeah, but
Pillow, dude.
the album on Pillow.
Huh?
It would have been weird to end the album on Pillow
But I love that
because
song. Pillow is
me
so
too.
good.
But Pillow is like a total downer
Yeah.
song because it is so dark and so angry. It's so obviously about frustrations with his church upbringing, and I what's the line? Uh, I ate the crumbs and I spilled the wine. The thought that counts. Burning
Burning
candles,
Candles.
night shine. Yeah. I mean, like it's pretty angry.
That chorus though, dude. That chorus. I mean, come on. It's
It's
just so
amazing.
fucking epic, dude.
But I see why they didn't end the album with that because
Yeah.
they always find some way to no matter how dark they get, to kind of send you packing, feeling all right. And
Yeah. This is the
I
one
mean,
that they
every album they find a way.
And this is the one they stepped away from the acoustic closing track on for the first time. Songs like Complain. Oh, complain so much easier. Complain. So good. I love Sunshine Rain, man. I love that tune too. There's not one song on here I don't love and I don't know. Like I may not know all the words off the top of my head right now anymore because I'm old and I'm dealing with some medical stuff. But I mean, it didn't take long. Once I spun this, it was like, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. It was like every song was like, oh fuck yeah, that song's a banger. It's just so cool.
Yeah,
This is
I
like a
mean the
nine and
whole.
a half for me.
Yeah, no
Say
doubt.
again?
No doubt it's an amazing album, but I do think that it is a departure from the first four.
Oh, 100%. Very
Yeah,
different sound. Much more. I don't know what Ty was playing, and I didn't really dig into that. I know there was a lot. I think he might have dropped down into C for this. Is that right, or am I wrong about that?
I want to say I read that somewhere. I know he changed his amps. So, like on the previous albums, he was using these. It's
Lab
not.
series.
Yep, Lab Series,
Yeah.
and the Lab Series amps were, they were like always falling apart. They were only in production for a short period of time, and then
And they were also
he
solid
also
state.
had
They were solid state
right.
too.
And so in his guitars, he was using these like custom made pickups that were briefly in production. There were active pickups that Fender was making, and he would just change them out before the show because they were completely undependable and they wouldn't work. And I think he got like, from the interviews I watched with him, he got tired of dealing with that. And so Zion Guitars made a custom guitar for him that he was using, and that was his signature model.
Right.
And it was like a style guitar. And then he
It's a
was
super
using
strat.
Mesa. He was using Mesa amplifiers for this record, so
Oh,
that
that's right.
explained
That's right.
the big change in tone.
That's a huge tonal change. Because before he was using that Yamaha. Remember that super strat, the Yamaha? On the first two albums, he used a Yamaha guitar.
Did he? I thought it was a Fender.
Yeah.
The red.
The red one was dude, I'm about 99% sure that we'll have to look that up and see if I'm off on this, but I know he used a Yamaha guitar super strat in those first. I don't know the model number because I'm not real familiar with what what their models are. We'll have to look that up at the end. We'll go take a look. But
I
yeah,
know
tonal change on this album, big time. Big time.
in this video that has like the videos from the first three albums,
Right.
in the video for Summerland, you can see at one point he looks like he's playing like Jackson.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
but only
Like a super
so,
strat, you mean a strat body Jackson or a
yeah, with an upside down headstock
okay,
and a
yeah.
quilted maple top. Looks like
Like a Kelly or something like that.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's only on the solo, and it's got like a big Floyd Rose and the whammy bar and
Wow.
all.
That's so
But
weird.
the rest of it looks like he's playing a Strat, but it may be, a Yamaha. But I do know that he was using those weird Fender pickups, and he was having to like solder them before shows and stuff. And so with Dogman, he just decided it was time for a change. Supposedly, there's a ton of documentary footage from the making of that record.
Okay.
It was going to be released via Molken Music, but
Right.
it never got released. So
Here it is. I found it, dude. It's a Yamaha RGX. No, wait, that's his signature. Hold on. So he had a signature called an RGX TT Ty Tabor electric guitar, but where's the secret behind? Here you go. Secrets behind Ty Tabor's guitar tone on Owl of the Silent Planet. Tabor played through an expensive custom or heavily modified tube amp, but actually he was using solid state lab amp series, an Alesis MIDI Verb 2, and an Ibanez DD200 rack effect. His beloved. Oh wait, it looks like you're right. Fender Elite Stratocaster.
the
Fender
red one,
Elite.
right?
What's that?
I think it was red with
Yep,
a
it was
black
red.
pickup.
Yep, it was red. And then he had a signature Lab Series L5 that they made for him that is adjustable from 100 hertz to 6.4 kilohertz mid-range boost. So the the Strat that he had, the Elite, had built-in active electronics that consisted of TBX treble expander and MBX mid-range boost. I'm not sure what all that means, but I'd have to, see it and play it. I'm not that much of a guitar nerd, but that's pretty cool. But I could have swore I saw him playing a Yamaha. Maybe I was thinking of his signature model. Maybe he played that for a little while to try to push that. I don't know.
He did briefly have a Yamaha signature model. That's right.
Yeah.
And that was
Yep.
during the tape era. It had like a headstock that was like a
It was
it
like an
was like a PR.
oversized Strat. I think it was an oversized Strat head stock, wasn't it?
No, it was set up more like a PRS headstock.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
remember
but that
that.
was later. That was later. So that would have been probably this era.
Yeah. Let's
So
jump into
ear
that
candy.
album. Now we're talking what
So
year on this one?
96, I think. Yeah,
Yeah, I
96. So ear candy was the first record that like it came out, and my musical interests during that time in my life were changing. I was listening to a lot of punk. I was during that time period. I was mostly listening to like Dead Kennedys and stuff like that. But I still was listening to King's X, but just not as much.
right.
And this record really had some bangers on it. Like the train and my favorite song on this record is "Lies in the Sand." I love that song,
Yeah,
and it
great
came
tune.
down when I decided to do a King's X cover. I was debating on if I was going to do Pleiades or Lies in the Sand. Like I knew I had to do a Thai song because there's no way in hell that I could even pretend to try to sing any of Doug's parts. It would just be embarrassing for me because I'm not a particularly good singer. And so it was either Lies in the Sand, which I learned acoustically. So I was going to do it as an acoustic song. But then I decided to do Pleiades because it was so much fun
That's
to
killer.
do.
That's a killer
But
choice, though, dude.
this also has a Jerry song on it, which American Cheese, Jerry's Pianto.
Not my
And
favorite Jerry song.
the Pianto thing shows up on like multiple records. There's
Yes,
just
it
some
does.
inside that I don't know.
It's got to be. Got to be. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great Jerry song. It's totally got the Beatles vibe on it. And then the photo on the inside, you can see Doug's 12-string hammer
12.
there.
Yep.
He has the signature Schecter 12-string now.
Oh, does he now?
Yeah, he does.
That
And I
that, that
totally
only took forever.
don't need a 12-string bass, but I'd be a liar if I said I didn't look up how much they cost the other day.
I was gonna say, how much are they?
Hell, more than I can spend when I don't need it.
Over two?
Under.
Okay. Yeah, because
So
I will
it's
tell
like,
you, man, I don't know what your experience with Schecter is, but my experience with Schecter has been pretty good. I think they make some pretty nice guitars. They're a Hellraiser. My kid has one of those, and I swear, dude, it played as good as my PRS. I really liked the way it played. I was surprised. I didn't like the
yeah,
active pickups in it, but
they're nice guitars for sure. I mean, I'm pretty obsessed with Hagstrom. Is what
yeah, I
I'm
know
super
you.
in.
Yeah, right.
I'm like pretty in love with.
So this album came out in you said 96, right? I hate
Yeah.
not having my dates on me. And like you, some of my stuff was changing. I
Mhm.
don't lie about the fact that when grunge came out, I bought Nevermind, but I never really listened to it. But man, I fell in love with Alice in Chains and Soundgarden, especially Soundgarden, because I saw Soundgarden. Marty and I have this in common. We saw that Faith No More, Soundgarden, and Voivod tour in January of 90, I believe it was 89 or 90. I forget which year. Um, and I was really digging Soundgarden, really digging Alice. getting into a lot darker sphere. And when this came out, I was like, it kind of sounds a little poppy. But before we did this deep dive, I would have said, that's probably like a 6 or 7 album for me. It's not. It's way better than that. There are some killer songs on here. The Train's great, obviously. Thinking and Wondering, cool fucking tune that only Doug could write, quite frankly. Um, Sometimes good. A Box, that's one of his ballads. Real. And Doug's really deep, man. When he gets into a lot of this stuff, it's very personal. Um,
Absolutely.
Looking for
I mean,
Love, dude. I think Looking for Love's a great song, man. It's almost got like a fucking, like an 80s hair metal hook to it, but it's not
mm-hmm.
that at all. It's just got Looking for Love. It's just super cool. Another Doug track. Mississippi Moon, that's a Ty song. Very, very cool. I don't remember 67, I hate to say. Lies in the Sand
67,
is great. Is that
67
their
is a bit more kind of a droning song, but there's a
Yeah.
really cool line where he says where he's talking about, like, he says, cut off all my dreadlocks and now I'm feeling free.
Yeah.
And I loved that line. And I remember when I cut my dreadlocks off, I had dreadlocks down to my ass for like 11
Did you really?
years.
Oh,
Yeah, just
shit.
big, dumb crust punk dreadlocks. My wife had them too. And I had
No
them. They
way.
were just like down to my waist. They were, they were
Oh, my
so
God.
annoying.
Max
Yeah,
Cavalera style.
they were so annoying. And I remember the day that I got rid of them all. And we weighed, it was like 5 pounds of dreadlocks.
Oh, my God. You
Yeah, it
felt
was
like you
brutal.
were free. You literally felt like you
And
were
I
free.
remember just that line from that song, like, cut off all my dreadlocks and now I'm feeling free. And I was just like, what's up? Like, I mean,
Our hair's
totally,
our hair's close in length. Mine's down about to my boobs. And I
yeah,
would never have a dreadlock in my life. I just couldn't stand that. It would drive me nuts.
it was, let's see, my hair is about, right about to my man boobs, a little bit past
Yep.
it. My
Yep.
locks were twice as long as my hair is
Oh,
now.
God.
I remember like one time I was getting out of the car to go into the grocery and I shut my hair in the door,
Oh,
just like, oh, and then, like, as I walked away, I didn't know, and it pulled,
yeah.
and I mean, it sucked so bad. I mean, it was so
Yeah.
long and it was everywhere, and it was just too much. And so once I got rid of them, I was like, yes, this rules,
Did you cut
So
your hair like really short? Did you cut it super short to get rid of it all?
like to my shoulders, I kind of
Okay.
picked it out. I picked
Wow.
out what I could, and so, like, that song 67, it kind of just seems to be about like letting go of stuff, and and that seems to be a lot. I mean, however, what's weird about this album is that they were being pressured so hard
Yes.
by the record label,
Atlantic.
and they were really unhappy with it, because the record label wanted them to make hits. They were like, the expectation was, that they were gonna make hits, and then, I mean, I don't know, and it didn't work out, and so then they got dropped.
Yep, and they hated being on Atlantic. Apparently, that the things I've read that Doug said that they just really hated Atlantic because Atlantic didn't really do much to push them. They didn't try to get them over. They kept saying you got to write this kind of song, but then they didn't push the albums when they came out. They hardly gave them any kind of support for it. And this is a really good album. This is a really good album for me. Okay, hold on. Maybe I should. I was going to say this is kind of, for me, the last of the great run by them, but I do like Bulbous quite a bit, so we'll get there in a minute. But this was kind of like, for me, once I tapped into this album, it grew on me. There's songs on here like Run. That's a great tune, man.
Yeah,
Fathers is really good. Picture, man. Picture is the door from the sneak preview days, and man, that is such a heavy song, man. Lyrically, it's deep, and Doug really rolls a lot out on this one. This is This is probably a 9 out of 10 for me, which surprised me because I think if you'd asked me a week ago, hey, what's your opinion of Ear Candy? I'd have been like, it's all right. I don't know. But when I really listened to it, I was like, oh, I missed a lot of tracks on here that are way, way better than I thought they were.
It's definitely like there's a lot of really personal stuff on it, and I applaud the bravery of that. And um, like Lies in the Sand is one of my favorite Thai songs. Also, I mean, Life Going By is really great too.
Oh yeah.
I love Doug's vulnerability on this record. I mean, he's always been very honest about his feelings, and that's one of the reasons I respect him. Not just the fact that he has like the world's greatest bass tone, but
fuck yeah.
I mean, his tone's amazing.
Unmatched.
But this record, like, I don't find myself revisiting it as much as the other stuff, but definitely the songs that I love on this album, I really love, and the songs that I don't love as much, I kind of just skip over, But
you know what?
when
you kind of nailed it. Yeah, you kind of nailed it.
When I'm at home and it's just me and I just play the record, I enjoy it. Even the songs that I'm not crazy about, I still enjoy it. Which brings us to Tapehead.
Yes, sir. I'll blow you up here. That came out what year?
98, 97, 98.
Yeah, I apologize to people watching that wanted definitive info. I had all that stuff, but I can't access those notes. So I'd almost have to look it up. You have to just check. But I like the artwork on this one.
This is the first time that this came out on wax.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Yeah. And
you just got that? Did you just get that? You said?
I just got this week. Yeah, I mean, so I saw them on this tour. This was the first album that they did that I didn't buy on release day because I was too busy being a punk and quaffing my farts out of a beer glass.
Nice.
I don't know. It's not that I didn't like them. I was just, I don't know, probably 17 or something, or however the hell old I was in 1998. I don't know. Shit. 16, 15, something like that. Like, I was like a teenager. I was in high school and, so yeah, it wouldn't have been a beer glass. It would have been a Jolt Cola. And I don't know why. I just never didn't really give it a chance until a couple years later, and then I got it. And I saw them. It wouldn't have been this tour. It would have been Bulbous then. Take that back. I remember like the song that everybody loves, like Groove Machine, and there's some weird controversy surrounding that song too.
Really?
There's a band from Texas. Yeah, there's a band from Texas that claims that they wrote that song, and that it was on a demo that they gave to Doug, and that Doug repurposed some of the riffs. And you can listen to the two songs back to back, and they do sound kind of similar.
Okay.
But then again, that riff is not the most.
Dude, it's a chromatic riff. Come on, come on.
It's not like it's the most uncommon arrangement ever.
Not at all. Not at all.
So when I was listening to this album today, it's been a couple of years since I've spent some time with it. I mean, there's really only one or two songs on it that I'm kind of like not that into. It's for their mid period. It's pretty good. I mean, there's definitely there's some jams on it for sure. I mean, Higher Than God is obviously a very, kind of earwormy song, and Cupid kind of has like this kind of Smashing Pumpkins vibe to it, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, I give it like a 3-star kind of deal.
3 out of 5.
I like the record. It's not one I reach for a lot, but I still like it.
Yeah, I think we should mention that they went to Metal Blade on this. They went over to Slagle's
Yeah.
label, and I'm sure they've known Brian Slagle forever, and our friends and whatnot. But this kicks off with Groove Machine. You and I talked about. I love that song. It's knuckle drag and lunkhead stuff, but man, it's just they almost always open their shows with it anymore. It seems like, anyways,
Yeah.
because it's just a skull crusher, like Dogman. It's just a skull crusher, and I love it. Fade is kind of a cool tune.
Mm-hmm.
The other one that really jumped out on me is Ocean on this one. The Thai song
Yeah.
Ocean
Really
is
a
really,
lot.
really cool. I don't mind a little bit of soul. And like you said, Higher Than
Yeah.
God's pretty cool. There's a couple of throwaway songs. This one, if you'd asked me again, like if you just said, "Hey, what's your opinion on this album?" I'd have been like, "Oh, that's an easy 9 out of 10." I don't say that now. I'd probably honestly give this like a 6.5. There is some
Do you know
stuff
the
on here that's
controversy
kind of
surrounding
throwaway.
Happy?
Say again?
Do you know the controversy surrounding Happy?
No, you know all these tidbits. I didn't follow all that, I guess. What's that?
So Happy was originally written. It had a different name. I can't remember what it was called. My total brain fart. But it had swear words in it. There was a line where Doug sings,
Oh,
"Get the fuck out of my way,"
really?
and yeah. It was like a rant song, like super frustration. He was like all irritated with people and being judged, and then literally the chorus, he says, "Get the fuck out of my way" in the chorus, and so there was a disagreement within the band, so he rewrote the lyrics and made it retitled it Happy, and then
Damn, I
changed
did
it.
not know that.
Yep. And there are demo versions of the song floating around, but um, you know, you can't find them anywhere. They've done a pretty good job of scrubbing it.
Oh, really? Okay. I'll have to see if I can search that out. But I mean, it's like you're definitely the more of a student of the band in terms of like the deep dive stuff like that. Because this period of time with King's X, I'm kind of I don't say I'm drifting away, but I'm kind of drifting away a little bit in that, I'm listening to more stuff like death metal. I mean,
Yeah.
because unlike you, who was a kid that came into death metal in the what late '80s, right? Early '90s. I did not really get into death metal till 2001, I think, when Blackwater Park
Really?
was introduced to me. Yeah,
Oh, what an album.
Steve Wilson, who I was pretty good friends with and was doing a lot of stuff for Porcupine Tree. He's like, "Hey, you really need to check out this band Opeth. I'm producing this album Blackwater Park." I'm like, it's got them Cookie Monster vocals, dude. I just can't do those. Here's the irony. About a year before that, I had introduced him to Frontline Assembly. Are you familiar with them?
I know the name, but I've never listened to them.
They're kind of like Ministry, but a lot less owl, if that makes any sense. A little bit more melodic, and that's a band. If you like Ministry or any of that industrial stuff, you need to check them out. But the vocals are all processed, so
Mm.
they're not real vocals, and they sound kind of menacing and evil, although they're not. They're not. They're more, just that kind of thing, almost like horror voice. And I said to Steve, I don't think I can get into this, man, because of the vocals. He's like, dude, you just sent me all this. You just sent me all this Frontline Assembly material. What the hell's the difference? I'm like, oh, okay, you're right. And then it clicked. Opeth was definitely the gateway for me. Even though I knew about Death, I knew about Deicide, and I went backward and got into that stuff. So I was kind of coming into that shit right around the time these albums were coming out, and they kind of got lost in my forest, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean?
No.
So I like this album, Tapehead. There's some really killer songs on it. I did not see him on that tour. Is this the next one? This would be the next one, right?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
No. That is after Bulbous.
Oh, Bulbous came out. Okay, sorry. So let's talk about
So
Bulbous then.
I so for the mid era King's X, the non prog, non dark, this would be
Right.
the one that I like most.
Yep.
This is one of the only albums from the mid period that I can kind of just listen through all the way through, and there's not really any songs that I will skip. I mean, kind of the only one that I'll skip over is Charlie Sheen, but I'm not so disinterested in it that I completely skip it. And honestly, price of admission alone, um, side A is perfect, and uh, bittersweet, move me, and move me part two are
So
brilliant.
good.
Those harmonies, how they build on it, how they put so much atmosphere. I mean, those songs. I mean, especially "Move Me" Part 1 and 2. They're more atmospheric than like post
Oh
rock
yeah,
and black
post
metal.
metal. I agree.
Because it's so big and there's so much layers of harmony and the tones are so beautiful. One thing that's weird about this record is that I wanted to say, and I think I put it in my notes, is that Doug's bass tone on this record is completely different. There is no overdriven, like how he always kind of ran his bass. I think he would run it through a guitar head and then run it through a bass amp to get it louder and give it low end, but he would give it all this like overdriven kind of grossness. And then he had his Ampeg fridges. He had such a unique tone, but for this record, it's so much low end and it doesn't have all that like mid definition to make it sound kind of clunky.
Right.
So he
Right.
took a completely different approach to his bass tone on this record. So
what year was this again? Give me the year on that one. I'm sorry, I don't recall.
this would have been, let me look, 2000.
Okay. So like I said, that's right when I discovered death metal. And I really started to go crazy about death metal. So when this came out, I don't think I gave it quite the attention that it deserved. Dude, songs like fucking Julia or
Yeah,
Julia, is
great
Julia
song.
or Julia? What a dark,
Julia.
beautiful song. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And my favorite track on the album, my favorite moment on the album is Marshmallow Fields, man. That song is so goddamn badass. The part where Doug's going, "Oh, won't you take me? Oh, won't you
Yeah.
take me out of my mind?" Just so fucking
Well,
killer.
it's like through the song, it gets all like kind of trippy and Beatlesy.
Yeah, it's so good. That song is just, I forgot how fucking epic
What's
that song is. I really
all
like
the chords?
Fishbowl is
Yeah, yeah.
really cool. That's got, you know, if I were to say anything about this album, it might be their most experimental, progressively, but not necessarily like Prog. In other words, I'm not saying this album's progressive like it's Crimson, in the Court of the Crimson King or something. But what they do, recording wise, and the way they structure the songs, the way they compose the songs, it's so good. And like you said, the last three songs, what is it, Move Me?
Yeah.
Oh, it's the last song is kind of ambient. It's got sort of this ambient,
Yeah.
washy sort of thing going on. Then they just kind of jam. This one here was the one that I didn't really remember very much because I probably didn't pay a lot of attention to when it came out. I fucking love this album. This is damn near.
Yeah.
I don't give 10. I rarely give 10s out of 10s unless they're Gretchen. This is like a 9.25. It's that good. And actually, it's probably one that I would recommend people check out King's X with first, even though it's kind of trippy and experimental.
It's the best of the mid era for sure.
Oh yeah.
Although, holy God, the artwork. It's like, what the fuck is that? Like,
let's be honest about King's X. Since the fourth album, their artwork was never. I mean, Ear Candy's okay, and None of their albums, except for Gretchen or the first one, blow my mind artwork wise. So now we're up to the one I pulled up there. Your least favorite album, I think.
I will I will excuse myself from talking about this album.
So you don't even want to talk about it at all. Okay, I'll talk a little about it.
Where I grew up, my mother told me that if you can't say something nice, then don't say anything at all.
That's okay.
So,
That's a good point.
and the off
All right,
chance that the off chance that those guys might see this, I wouldn't dare say a cross word about them.
all right.
So I will.
I'll say this. I don't know what they were thinking when using the loops. I guess it was a product of the time. I guess that software was coming out, and they just thought, "Oh, check it out. Let's do these loops on all these songs." Most of them are kind of pointless. I don't get them, but I did see them play live on this tour. This is the tour Doug and I went out to dinner after, and I'm going to tell you something, dude. This is not a lie. I only found out on that tour at that show that Doug was gay. I had no clue, no idea about it, never read about it, never thought about it, didn't cross my mind, didn't care. But the reason I knew something was up was he had the rainbow thing on his bass, that bass he was playing that night. And I'm like, all right, now it makes sense. Whatever makes sense. It's just, now I kind of know where some of his lyrics are coming from. As far as the music, I will say one thing. This is probably the most quote unquote bluesy that Ty plays. He plays a lot of what you would call more typical blues type chords and runs on this album. But I do like the song False Alarm, has some good stuff in it. Manic Moonlight is okay. I mean, once the songs get going and they ditch the fucking uh, beats or the samples or whatever. I guess they're using sample beats back then. And I think it was like Fruit Loops or what was that program called? Fruity Loops or something like that.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I did see his tour. I thought the tour was great. There was a killer British band that opened for them called Moke, Moke, that the singer went on to sing with Chris Robinson in the band that he had after the Black Crowes split up for a while. I think they were called Magpie Salutes or something like that. And that guy, John, I can't remember his last name, but the singer from Moke, man, what a singer. Um, and this show was great. Like I said, it was so cool. I got to hang out with Doug afterwards. And, I probably, let's see, we're getting there, man. We're getting close. I just want to see if this one was signed because, no, I didn't take this one in. I probably thought about this a lot like you did. I've softened on it a little bit. And when I listened to this last time, I didn't skip every song or skip every song that I got into. I actually listened to 3 or 4 songs. But like I said, False Alarm, Believe, Manic Moonlight are okay. The song Vegetable, what a weird fucking tune. What a weird name for a song, Vegetable. And then they do this really weird thing at the end called Water Ceremony where I don't know what the fuck they're doing. Burping and
yeah, they kind of put weird
goofing
shit at
off.
the end.
Yeah.
Okay,
Doug was
noticed how
Doug was Doug probably got some good tie stick that night and kind of went nuts. All right, man. So we
you
got
ever know
how many
the
more?
end of
We got,
there's all the hidden track where it's like
okay.
just them talking into a fan and going.
Yeah,
It's super
it's weird as
ridiculous.
it's weird as hell. But all right. So next one up, I think. Yeah, I think we're both on that. I gave that a 3 out of 10. You don't have this one?
No, there's no vinyl of it, and
There you go.
um, yeah, so my notes for it say the second song, Rock Pile. All I wrote was oofta. And oofta, I don't know if for the non-Minnesotans, it just means oofta is like um but the tones are really good, and and so like as I was running today, listening to it, I was like, oh, the tones are good, and then I go there's a reggae riff on this, and then uh, down has some pretty harmonies at the end, and two is kind of cool. Johnny, I like that song actually, and I like the ending with all the like with them just jamming. But really, other than that, I got I got nothing else. I got nothing else to say.
Yeah, I looked at my notes. This was my 3 out of 10 album. Doug, I love you. Ty, I love you. Jerry, I love you. This just isn't a great album. Now, allegedly, this was all demo tracks that they had that I guess fans kind of somehow pushed and really wanted this album recorded. Black Like Sunday, the opener of the album, I believe, is a good track. That's a very King's Xe song. As you mentioned, Down has some moments in it. The what's the reggae track? That's the second track, right?
Yeah, it gets
Or-
just all reggae in
Uh,
the middle, and that was kind
yeah.
of weird. Not, I
The
mean,
song
not that I'm opposed to
No,
reggae
I
because I
like
love.
reggae a lot. I love Bob Marley, but I just it doesn't sit well in this. The song Johnny, we talked about it a little bit earlier, man, it just goes on and on and on. And I'm a prog guy. I love fucking, Gates of Delirium and Close to the Edge and every fucking prog song you can think of. The long ones. Cygnus X1, Book 2. One of my favorite probably my favorite album of all time is Hemispheres by Rush. It's just, I don't think any
Right.
album will ever surpass that album. And that's a whole album alongside, but it's interesting. This is not an interesting album. I don't want to be a dick about it, but something, and I think this was the last one for Metal Blade, right? I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tones are good on it
Um,
though. Like if you listen to it with headphones on, the bass tone sounds amazing on it. The guitar is nice and heavy. The drums sound very live. I just didn't like the direction that they were going. It's just not for me.
yeah.
It kind of got a little new metal-y at times, and it's just
Yeah, there's a little of that in
wasn't
there.
you know it wasn't my thing. And that's the thing. You can't expect a band to continue to do the same thing they've always done. No band owes us anything.
No,
I
they
don't,
don't.
I
Nope.
can't stand it when fans of bands think that, oh well, like I wanted them to make another album like XYZ. Well, that's just not how that it works. Like, artists are allowed to do things as they want, and you can always listen to those older albums.
And the reality
So
of it is that, as you well know, making music, writing music, creating is an extremely personal experience. And it's 99% of rock musicians, whether it be hard rock, metal, prog, whatever, they're writing music that they want to hear. And if you want to come along for the ride, that's fucking awesome. But if you don't, you know, it's not necessarily to a real artist, it's not going to matter that much. The fact that people dig it is a bonus. It's an added, uh, it's a, it's an added value added sort of thing that comes along with it. As you know, I'm a huge Porcupine Tree fan, huge Steve Wilson fanatic. However, his last two albums, can't stand them. Don't listen to them. Didn't buy the last one, and not because it was pop infused techno electronica. That's not it. It just, I've heard it before and I've heard it done better. Porcupine Tree's latest album that came out in September. I'm sorry, June. A lot of hype around it. I like it. It's okay. I wish my buddy just texted me, said the show's over. I wish I'd have been well enough to go see it because they put on a damn near a 3 hour show and two sets and crazy. But people were talking about this new Porcupine Tree like it was one of the greatest albums they ever put out. And I'm like, nah, sorry, don't hear it.
yeah,
So, as a fan, I have the right to not like something, but the artist is doing what the artist wants to do. This is an album that I don't know what the, maybe they were just fulfilling a contract here to get out of the Metal Blade contract. I don't know. I looked up how that went, why they didn't re-sign with him, and went with Inside Out. I couldn't really find much on it. And I don't think that Doug and Ty and Jerry are the kind of guys that would shit on people if a relationship went sour. They may say, yeah, that just didn't work out for us, but I don't think they're going to slag the label. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, regardless, it is what it is, and it's on to to
Ogre
Ogre
Tones.
Tones here.
Yep. Here's mine.
So, yep. So my notes for that record. Um, I've listened to that record a bit. There are like Stay kind of sounds like an old song. I really like that one. Hurricane is super catchy. It's kind of got some Dogman vibes. Fly is a banger.
Fly's cool. Yep.
I could really do without Bebop.
Yep.
That one got an oofta next to it. It just doesn't appeal to me. Honesty is really gorgeous. It's a Thai song.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite track on the album.
It kind of sounds like something that could have been on Ty's solo album Safety, which is a really beautiful record and a very vulnerable record that he wrote. And oh, hi Vic. That has that has one of his best songs he ever wrote called I Don't Mind, and that's a really, really, really beautiful song. I could really do without Open My Eyes and Freedom both. They just don't really appeal to me. Honestly, the best song on this record is Sooner or Later, in my opinion. Sooner or Later is totally like a Dogman style song. It's got some great harmonies on it. It's got some vulnerable lyrics. Doug's performance on it is absolutely amazing. The riff is awesome. The song Mud is really sad. It's obviously about the death of a very important loved one. And the atmosphere and tone on the record is really good. It sounds a lot more modern. And then obviously the Goldilocks reprise at the end is great because it kind of tips its hat at the live shows. I definitely don't think that Ogre Tones is one of their best records, but I certainly wouldn't turn my nose up to it. And I enjoyed it.
Yeah, this is an album that I can put on and listen to, but I don't find myself getting very immersed in it. Alone and Stay, the first 4 tracks are, they set a good tone. Maybe and If is probably like kind of borderline there, and then Honesty is really great. But after that, I just found like, and Sooner or Later is good. I don't know if I like it quite as much as you, but the thought I had about this album, I remember getting this album and I had to fly to Dallas to go to a seminar for a job I was working, and I don't like flying at all. And our flight took off literally in a fucking ice storm with wind whipping the plane around. I was like, yeah, this is I'm gonna die. But I had gotten this album and I brought it along and I threw it on I had a little portable CD player back then. And I remember thinking, well, I'm glad King's X is still here. I'm glad they're still putting out albums. But honestly, dude, this is kind of a 5.5 or maybe a 6 at best for me. I don't dislike it. I like, as always, the production is great. And we should note that this is Michael Wagoner, who's, a pretty big name in engineering and production. I don't know if that's because they went to Inside Out, that they had a bigger budget. I really don't know. But Yeah, it's a decent album, but it's not one that I would. It's not one I'd reach for very often. So we got two more. I know you're yawning,
There's
so we'll
definitely
try to
some
get this.
bangers on it, though.
Say what?
I said there's definitely some bangers on it though.
Oh yeah, some good tracks. I mean, you never get it other than Black Like Sunday, and even that has a couple of decent tracks. You never get a King's X album that isn't solid. You know, I mean that's just how it seems to play out. So we got two more. And did you get XV on? You said you got XV on.
We're up to three here.
Okay.
Um, so this record, my notes are, so this was another one of the ones where I just kind of focused, my notes, I just kind of focused on the things I like. When the record came out, I gave it a solid listen. I didn't really relate to it super deeply, but then I came back to it, and there were definitely some songs that I enjoyed on it, and there were some songs that I kind of passed. Repeating myself, really beautiful melody and arrangement.
Oh
I
yes.
I've always liked Ty's sense of melody, the way that he writes, the way that he sings. Julie is another Jerry song, and I always love that because it deviates from the typical King's X sound and arrangement, but it shows how integral Jerry's contribution to the band
Yeah.
is,
Very well
and
said.
how much of a part. It's like it's the cog in the engine that you don't see is there, but it can't run without it. So, um, obviously, Move is a banger. Um, and I don't know, is kind of reminiscent of Honesty a little bit, but I did notice that it kind of sounds like the Goo Goo Dolls a little bit, um,
Yeah, it does.
which which made me kind of laugh. But the chorus is really heavy and lush, and it gets really emotional and layered, and the harmonies and the guitar parts are really full. The latter half of the song is really pretty. Stuck sounds like an older era song, like something off of the fourth album, off self-titled. Starker sense of melody, big harmonies, kind of brooding. The final song, "Go Tell Somebody." I know it's a fan favorite, and I know people love it, but I could really do without it. Um, it just doesn't really hit me. You know,
I would
it kind
I
of
would
it's kind of breaking the fourth wall. You know what I mean?
yeah. I would posit though that this album started moving in the right direction from where Ogre Tones and Black Like Sunday left off. I feel this is a better album than Ogre Tones personally. I really like Prey. I love Blue. Repeating Myself's awesome. Rocket Ship's cool. Julie's really good. Um, I Just Want to Live. Move is one of my fucking favorite songs they've ever done. It's just so menacing, and Doug is like, he's just he's talking about the end of the world, end of times. It's like that
No
kind of
doubt.
almost like fire and brimstone type track. That's one of their best songs they've ever done. Um, Other than the rest of them, I don't mind Go Tell Somebody. I don't love it. It's just kind of there. I do really like Love and Rockets for some reason. The bonus track, that's a bonus track on the CD. I really like that. I just love the way it's kind of drony and washy. And you said Smashing Pumpkins, a softer sort of Smashing Pumpkins kind of vibe to that song. Almost kind of, like early 80s sounding in a weird way with the way the guitars are washy and all that stuff. And then man, the last song, No Lie, though, ooh. I I was like, wait, this is King's X? I totally forgot this. That was not a great track. I was not digging that track. So I gave this a
It just
6 out of 10.
kind of feels like bar blues, you
Yeah, it's a
know.
bar. It's a bluesy bar sort of song, and they're just
You
kind of
got to remember
riffing.
a lot of time in Texas,
Yeah.
so you know.
No, I know. I mean, I'm not shitting on it because I would never do that. Like you said, too much respect for those guys. But
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say, I don't know if you heard about this. This is funny. I'll relay this to you. You probably didn't, but back in May, I think it was early May. Eric, do you remember Eric from the streams? out in Seattle. Eric,
Yeah,
fuck, I forget his last name. Damn it. Marty will tell me. I totally blanking on it.
I don't think he's on anymore.
Oh, and okay, he split. Um, yeah, Eric. Fuck. Anyways, he did a deep dive with me, and we got into the catalog of uh Jesus Christ, dude. I'm having a moment here. You got to be kidding me. Last decade, dead century, drugs, God, and the New Republic. Oh fuck. Are you telling me I can't remember the damn name of this band? Warrior Soul. Oh, Warrior Soul. You know them at all?
No.
Okay.
Did I lose you? This isn't awkward at all. Cheers. I'm sure he'll show up again at some point. Okay, he's coming back. What beer do I got? I got this Castle Danger. It's a Lager Royale. It's called. It's just like a standard lager, but it's made in Two Harbors, Minnesota, right there on Lake Superior. So it's pretty chill. It's just like a normal standard lager. But Castle Danger's good. Good brewery. Makes makes good beers that are very simple, which I like from time to time. What about you? What are you drinking? Oh yeah, for sure. So I love lagers, and um, I mean it's kind of I think it's a brewer thing though. I think all of us are pretty sick of everything else, so we end up just drinking like really simple stuff because everything else just reminds us of work. I will show you my favorite lager. I think I have a bottle left. Um, yeah, I got one right here. It is this Helles Schlinkerla lager beer. It's Genex Schlinkerla smoked, mildly smoked lager. It's really, really good. So this is probably my favorite lager. Marty, I don't know. I texted him. He says he'll be back on in just a second.
Hey, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Oh,
Can you hear me?
yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. I apologize for that. That was actually Richard Barbieri from Porcupine Tree calling me after the show. He just wanted to tell me I was missed at the show tonight because he was really hoping to catch up, and we're probably going to do an interview for my show in a couple days. But I'm sorry to do that to you. I didn't know if I could get a chance to talk to him again after the show. So all right, so we're up
No worries.
to where are we at? We're up to we finished XV, right? Pretty much.
We're on
So
to
we're on to the new album.
Three Sides of One. The 14 years in the making.
That's crazy when you think about that. 14 years. That's nuts.
So all right, so I saved it up. I listened to some live stuff, and I when they would do promo for it, I would check out a song or two when they did. But then when the album leaked, I did not listen to it because I wanted the whole experience of waiting for release day.
Okay.
And so on release day, I downloaded it. I put it on my trusty MP3 player. And
God, they still have those?
Yeah, this is a
That's a good
Walkman.
one, try a new one, yeah.
It's got like a vinyl simulator in it. This is like a really nice one. Becca bought it for me for my birthday.
Cool.
A couple years
ago.
It's got a vinyl simulator. This sounds amazing. It's incredible.
Okay.
It's not like
not like the old like the old Zoom MP3 players that everything sounded compressed and destroyed.
This sounds really, 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 really good.
Awesome.
So I put it on there. I went. I was going to go trail running, but we'd had a whole shitload of rain. So I decided not to run the trails around here because I figured they'd be super slippy and muddy, and a lot of the rocks around here are kind of mossy covered, and I just didn't feel like eating shit. So I went running at Miners Lake, which is in town, and there's like a 3.5 kind of 4-mile loop. And I listened to the album, and man, I mean, it kind of blew my mind. Like the production values are amazing. The lyrical content kind of says so much stuff that I agree with and that I feel the same way. Like Let It Rain is this idea of frustration with the world and the way that things are going and how shitty people are to each other, and and how like we have all this fear and animosity and anxiety and anger towards one another, and it's like seeping into our communications with one another. This disinformation that we're constantly being fed, and we don't know we don't know where to get. It's agitation, propaganda, and the way that we're all kind of being
constantly confused.
Yeah. And that's what Doug was saying is like, let it rain, let it wash away the fear,
get rid of all the shit.
Yeah, wash it all away. And he ties into that in the second song, Flood. And so the idea is, I mean, so when Flood came on and I heard this like fading in, like almost kind of sounded like that Indian classical music.
Mm-hmm.
The orchestra have this kind of almost like Ravi Shankar with an orchestra. If you've ever heard any of the
Oh
recordings
yeah.
of Ravi
Yeah,
Shankar,
yeah,
he
for
has a
sure.
string with him. Kind of had that kind of vibe to it. And then, Doug's just like screaming into a distorted, overdriven mic, doing his, he's 71 years old or 70 years old and, still got vocals like that. It's like
Yep.
insane. But the line that ties in with Let It Rain is, I used to say that all we needed was love. Now I'm thinking what we need is a flood.
Yeah, that's a great line.
And in the previous song, the chorus is Let It Rain, wash the fear away. And I just thought that was such a brilliant lyrical device. And it's kind of like sardonic and sarcastic the way he presents it. But
Oh,
I
for
mean,
sure.
and this orchestration, like the way that they did that arrangement, I mean, it's just really brilliant. The third song, Nothing But the Truth, is my favorite song on the album. The reason why is it's totally got kind of a Flies in Blue Skies kind of vibe. I like the Doug love songs. I like the and I hate love songs. Like, I'm not a
So
love
do
song
I.
guy.
So do I. Yeah, so do I. I know exactly what you're
I
saying
mean,
there.
like, unless they're heartbreak songs, or they're like just brutal, deep poetry about loss and grief, then I'm like, oh, you know. But love songs usually make me cringe, you know.
Yep. Yep.
And I used to work with these guys. We used to do outreach for homeless youth and stuff. And these dudes that I worked with were older than me, and they were all really, really into Luther Vandross and Teddy Pendergrass and like all that kind of stuff. And we listened to that stuff all the time together. And they would every now and then they let me listen to metal, and
Right.
they were cool about it. And so since they were cool about it, I was cool about listening to R&B with them. And so
Sure.
like Lattimore and like all that kind of
Wow.
stuff.
Wow.
So I got used to hearing this stuff all the time and kind of developed a little bit of an ear for it.
Okay.
Now, there is not an R&B section in my record collection at all. But it doesn't mean that I didn't get familiar. And so
Sure.
hearing these references in King's X has been really kind of cool. And Nothing But the Truth totally sounds like a 70s, 80s R&B song with a down-tuned, super heavy band behind it.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. It works out great. The way that the song, Doug's delivery is really powerful, but the melody is really heavy. And I love how, Ty and Jerry did their backup vocals, and I love how they did the kind of classic, backing vocal tricks with all the little like woo-hoos and all that shit.
Right.
And then of course, like the cherry on top is the extended Face Melter solo
Solo.
that he does.
Yeah.
Just like I mean, that solo is just absolutely unbelievable. And so
Yeah,
then
that's
directly after,
one. But that's one though, if I could interject just for a sec. You don't hear Ty go off on 2 minute solos rarely. He's a very concise player. He's a very
yeah,
succinct player. He nails the notes that need to be nailed, and he doesn't overplay. This song he's not overplaying, he's just feeling. And you just feel that he's feeling that solo, and he just goes, that is a killer fucking tune. Love that song.
it's great. And it bleeds right into Give It Up, which is a total absolute banger. Kind of it's the first time that they've gotten that like straight up funk since Everybody Knows a Little Bit of Something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's awesome. And I will say it was hard for me as a lifelong fan of the band to hear Doug Pinnick address his mortality.
Yeah,
Because it's not a thought I want to have. You know
sure.
what I mean? But at the same time, it's like I respect him for doing that. And this isn't like when I addressed my mortality when I was younger and fucked up and like my brain was scrambled eggs and I was like sick and this is different. Like that was a young man's musings on mortality after the loss of a parent and mental illness. What Doug is going through is facing his autumn years and having a lot of grace while doing that. And I really respected the way he did it. He handled it really gracefully, really honestly, but with humor too. He kind of softened the blow of like talking to his fan base about the fact that he's not going to live forever.
The funny thing
And
is, Doug's history in his family, I believe his grandmother died, or was it his aunt that just died at like 102 or something? And most of his family lived into their like nearly 100. So, Doug may still have a good 30 some years left, man, which is kind of fucking crazy because when you look at him now at 72, he's healthier than you and I put together. Now, I'm not healthy at all, but he's a healthy, he can do shit that most 70-year-olds can't. My dad's 82, 81, and he barely can get up and get out of a chair to go make his, you know, whatever TV dinner for the night in the microwave. That's his big project of the day. And yet here you got Doug still getting up on stage at 72, still yes, his voice has changed a little bit. There's a little bit of a perceptible, it's there, but there's a little bit of a seasoned kind of feel to it. But go ahead, finish up.
He's just deeper now, and because he's
Sure.
older, but he still sounds great. And I don't know. I felt like he did a really incredible job with a really delicate subject matter that could be really uncomfortable, especially for such a beloved performer. Then All God's Children comes on, which is a total banger, absolute face melter. It was really kind of gnarly to hear King's X get that explicitly political. I hate the fact that we live in a world where we are politically so fucked up right now, and everybody's so against that King's X has to address it.
Yeah.
That on and directly. It's an incredible song, and it's handled really delicately, and that Sabbath riff, I mean, it's so good. And then immediately after is Take the Time, which I will openly admit that I cried. From what I can tell, it sounds like it's about Jerry's wife kind of looking after him while he was in the hospital with his heart attack
2 times.
And having been somebody who's stayed up all night watching over my son, hoping that he through the night. Yeah. And that's, he says, she just has to see me make it through the night. Well, like, that's what I went through with my boy.
Oh, God, dude.
All night long and checking on him and keeping him from pulling tubes out of himself, and I remember laying in the bed next to him and squeezing my fat ass into that hospital bed so that I could,
just make sure be as close to him as possible.
Absolutely. Well, and so that song, like, not only did it hit me on a personal level from my own memories and understanding, but it also hit me, thinking about him going through that and the heaviness of that. And then Festival after that is totally a skip over for me. I get it. It kind of seems like it's about Woodstock 94 and all the chaos. But it's just a goobery song. So I just skip over it.
I like Ty's delivery in it. It's just kind of weird. I don't know why I like that song. That's kind of where everything starts to trail off other than Swipe Up. But I get why you don't like it. I totally get it. It's funny. It's hokey.
Yeah, but it's also kind of snarky. So it's kind of
it's kind of big time.
It's kind of the same thing as Freedom from from
Yeah.
Ogre Tone.
Yeah.
Swipe Up is a total banger. Heavy is all get out. I love that Doug addressed the social media and how social media paints a unrealistic picture of what life looks like, and like we're getting this like manicured perfect vision of what somebody wants you to think about them, but not what they actually are.
Oh, yeah.
And and I feel like Doug addressed that really gracefully, and and also the riff really bangs. It's
It's
super
their
heavy.
it's their Meshuggah song. It's kind of got a little bit of a Meshuggah vibe to it.
Totally, totally.
And
Um,
Doug loves Meshuggah. Doug really loves Meshuggah.
right.
I just saw him talk about that recently. So
Holidays is a Jerry song, another Jerry song, and I actually like it. It's got this kind of 1970s yellow neon light, kind
mm,
of kind of dingy roller rink or dingy gas station 1970s kind of feeling. Like it's kind of nostalgic, but it's got some Beatlesy moments, and I
oh
actually really
yeah.
liked it. Um, Watcher kind of reminds me a bit of Lost in Germany kind of vibe. Um, I thought it was pretty good. She Called Me Home, another Jerry song. It it's good. It's not the best of his songs on the record, but at the end, the latter half of the song, I really like the way it goes on it. And then Everywhere is totally their end of the album kind of flower child, like hippie. That they want to send you away smiling. They don't want to send you away with a dark moment. And
Right.
Everywhere is totally one of those songs that they did to send you away feeling good. And actually, Beck really loved that song a lot when we listened to the record together.
How
I thought
many
it was
lists?
pretty cool.
How many listens in did you get? How many have you had? Because I've only really had two, like real firm ones.
12.
Okay, you got some time with it then. I think that
Yeah.
some of those later tracks are going to be growers for me. They didn't do
Hmm.
anything for me initially, but I think there's one or two like Watcher that will grow for me. It starts out banging with Let It Rain. I mean, as soon as I heard that, I was like, whoa, those guitars. Like what? Okay, what is going on there? That chord those two chords he's playing are, I haven't tried to figure them out or even look them up, but it was like, what is, and it also definitely sounds like he's tuned down to like C.
So
It
the
does not
engineer
sound
is
like D.
actually the delay and reverb and turning the knobs. He's turning the knobs up as the chord
That's
rings out. So then
okay.
he's
So
then in,
it's almost volume swelling with the effects. Then
yeah.
it's
So
so
that's I
driving.
interview where they explained how they made that song.
It's so driving. It's so catchy. Doug's vocals sound great on it, and yeah, it's scathing because why not? I mean,
Yeah.
Doug's been uh pounding away at this for 30, almost 40 years, 43 years. I think they've been a band, right? Since 79. So yeah, 43 years. And while I'm sure he's not destitute and barely making ends meet, he's not living in a fucking mansion. And I'm sure at times that he wonders where things didn't go right or why they didn't go right. Why Metallica is worth billions and King's X isn't. There's no justice in the world. Don't get me wrong. I love Metallica, early Metallica. I'm not a fan of what they've done since probably the Black Album now, but and I think they bust their ass. They're out there a lot, so they're making a lot of money, and that's how it is. But it does seem kind of unfair that a band like King's X that's got the quality of albums out that they have, has the quality catalog that they have, that they're still fighting to exist in the big pond. You know what I mean? I was super
Well,
happy to see they were coming back. Go ahead.
they're kind of towards their career, like because they're all getting older now, and
Sure.
you know, I think that, I mean, hang on a second. I'm putting my
That's
flannel
cool.
back on. I'm getting kind of cold.
Yep.
All right. Get situated here. Um, I mean, what a life well spent, you know,
Well
to
put.
be able to make amazing music, to influence an entire generation of musicians. Um, you know, it occurs to me every day that like my primary income and how I make my living in my life is that I'm a professional musician, and I'm going, what? Like I'm getting away with this, you know? And so
Yeah.
yeah, it blows my mind that like I get to do this, and I never take it for granted. And I don't think those guys do either. I think
Oh no, 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 no.
they all have studios, and they you know they work on other projects, and they do tons of music. I mean, each of
Yeah,
them has a ton of output. I mean,
we
and it's awesome.
yeah, we should probably mention that. I think Jerry's got how many solo albums out? Like three or four?
Three,
Okay, three. And then Ty has his solo albums, but then he also has a project with Virgil Donati or Morgenstein. Forget
I
which
can't
drummer's
remember.
on there. Morgenstein, I think it is, from the Dregs. And John Myung from Dream Theater called
Dream.
Jelly Jam. And I will say Jelly Jam is really good stuff. He also had a band called Platypus, or maybe it was just a project from one album that was Ty. Doug has Pound Hound. He's got the Grinder Blues Band. He's got KXM, which I don't know if you've checked any of the KXM stuff out. Oh
That's
man,
what the from Corn, I
George
think.
with George Lynch and Ray Luzier from Korn. Yeah, George Lynch from Dokken. Dude,
Mm-hmm.
those albums are fucking killer, man. Scatterbrain is I love that album. Doug's singing on it, incredible. First album is really, really good. And then Doug also has like I think does he just have one solo album or is there a bunch of them? Like the one that he just put out is called like Joy Bomb or okay.
Yeah, there's a new one that came out in 2021, and then I mean Ty has a ton of uh, solo records, starting with Naomi's Solar Pumpkin,
No,
and then
okay.
Safety is really good, and Rock Garden. I can't remember all. I mean, there's a bunch, and then Marty just mentioned that Doug
Super
did that
Shine, yeah, you mentioned that. Yep.
one from Trouble, and it's a really great record.
There's
Uh,
I mentioned this to you earlier. Doug also did two albums with two luminary players. Yeah, Eric Gales, blues player Eric Gales, kind of in the Eric Johnson vein, killer guitar player, and Pridgeon. What's the guy's first name? Douglas Pridgeon, I think it is. Drummer for Mars Volta, among other bands. Really amazing drummer. That first PGP album, whoa, man, is it good. So many good songs on there. Just to tie my feelings up on this new album, it's the one I have the least time with, obviously, because it just came out 2 weeks ago. I don't have a copy of it. I did listen. I will say that every song up through Festival, the one that Austin kind of cringes at, which I kind of like because I'm weird that way. Every song on it is a killer track. The second song, Flood, is a really unique track for them, though. It's not like anything they've ever done before, in my opinion. It just sounds very unique and different, very heavy, very beatly, but very different. I don't think I have enough time with it to go into it much deeper than that. And then All God's Children, oh man, it's the banger track on the album, with the exception of maybe the Doug solo. What's it called?
oh, Nothing But the Truth.
Nothing but the truth. Man, that's so good. So good. Doug's vocals.
It's like this weird. It has kind of the Meshuggah breakdowny thing, but it's like super Sabbathy too. Like
But you
that
know what?
chord.
But you know the part where he goes, I'm not going to sing it very well, but what about you? What about me? It sounds Motowny at that point when he gets into that little, all the music kind of drops and he goes, but what about you? It sounds like something you would have heard in the '70s on like a
Well,
Motown
so
station.
you're talking about uh, nothing but the truth. He says, "I
Yeah,
want to hear it from you.
that's it. I want to hear it from you. When he says that line,
Hear it from you. Me, what I
that's it.
see is nothing but the truth." Yeah,
That's it. That's it. Dude,
it's got
that section gets me like right on the edge of tears because it's like what I would think if I was writing a song to somebody that was either rejecting me or loved me and didn't love me anymore, that kind of stuff. It's just so beautiful. His vocals are really exposed and raw on that track, and they're so good.
the
And of
production
course,
on that is amazing.
yeah, who produced this one? Did Wagner do this one again, or did they do it itself?
I don't
You have
know
that?
actually. Let me take a look here. It should say I don't have my reading glasses. I have my normal glasses down
Uh
there,
oh.
so it's kind of hard to find. Yeah, that's right. That's how bad it is.
I
That's
know,
how bad
dude.
it is. Different glasses for different activities.
I
It's
I had to go to bifocals 2 years ago. I'm an old man, dude. You're talking
oh,
to an
dude,
old man.
my optometrist was like riding me into town about it. He was like, yeah, you go play all these shows all over the world, and then you wear bifocals, and I was like, eh.
Well, do you ever try have you ever tried contacts or can't you do those?
Ah, man, I can't stick nothing in my eye.
Yeah, yeah.
Punk,
It took
dude.
it
I'll
took
scoop my eyeball out.
well, it took me a long time to get to them, and then true story. A girl I was dating got me one of those cleaners that you put your contacts on. It's like a little canister with these little
Yeah.
things you lay the contacts over. And it came with a bottle of solution that I thought was just eye cleaning solution. And one day I'm heading to work and running late, and I throw this contact in. And I grab that bottle. It was fucking not sulfuric. What's the other acid? Oh, there's another acid in there, not sulfuric, the one before. Anyways, it was 4% acid. It fucking burned my entire, like, my whole eye turned blood red. And I could never wear contacts after that. That was the last time I could get something on my eye because I just couldn't take it. But
Michael Parnan?
never heard of him.
Me neither.
Yeah, that's a new one. But the production on the album is really good. I wanna work on the last couple tracks to see if they grow on me and stand out. And all I can say is after 14 years and not really knowing if there'd ever be an album, and Doug talks about that in a lot of his interviews now about how there was a lot of false starts and a lot of yeah, but then it just never materialized. It's really good to have him back, man. And I hope Ty is doing okay. It looks like they're going to go out on tour in October. I wish I was well enough to go see him. It's probably not going to happen for me, but I got to see him, probably close to a dozen times and got to meet the guys, and that meant a lot to me. And Austin, because you're like me, we're nerdy fucking geeks, man. When we get to meet our heroes, it's like other than the births of our children and maybe our marriage date or something like that. Me, it's not that anymore, but there really isn't a bigger moment. It's like, God damn, man. When I sent you that picture of me standing next to Getty and Alex, and I got about 2 minutes with Getty and Alex, and no shit, I just stood there talking to Alex, going, "You're the guy that made me start playing guitar, man. You're the guy that made me start playing guitar. It's all because of you." And I was just like, "Oh God, I sound like such a fucking geek." And to
No,
meet
there's things
those, but they're royalty. Those guys were like back in the '70s when they were putting albums out, Austin. If you'd have told me in '77 and 2007, 30 years later, I was going to get to meet Getty and Alex, I'd have been like, yeah, right, dude. You're high as a kite. Those guys don't even live on planet Earth. They live somewhere else. That's what I thought of musicians. They weren't of this earth. And so to have the fortunate experience of getting to meet Doug and hang out and even go to dinner with him and talking to Ty and Jerry and running into Jerry at a Porcupine Tree show, that's just, man, that's just fucking awesome life experience right there. That is just, you can't beat that stuff. It's just so cool. And this is a band that, like you said, Doug is 72, Ty's turning 61. I think Jerry's about 64. How many more albums are left in them? How much more touring is left in them? I don't know, but I say that if you get a chance to go see this band live, do it because they're one of the best that's out there ever. And if you get to meet the guys, lucky you, because they all seem to be great human beings, and they put out some fucking amazing, amazing music. And I know what you've told me that they mean to you, and they're very. It's a very similar feeling for me. I forgot to tell you that the way that I came into them was I was in back in before social media, before the probably before the yeah before the internet, 1988. I was in a CD store that used to allow you to. The CD cases were on the rack, and you could open them, look at the liner notes and stuff. But the CDs he had behind him in a big like chest of drawers. You would go up, take the CD case up to him, and he'd give you the CD, and then you could go to a little listening station, listen to the whole CD if you wanted to. And I was in this store walking around, as I probably was numerous times every month. And he starts playing this, and I'm 99% sure it was, or when I walked in, they were playing "What Is This?" And I was just like, "Yo, Paul, what is this?" And he's like, "I think that's the name of the song." And I'm like, "No, man, what? Who the hell is this?" And he's like, "Ah, this band out of Texas called King's X," and that was the first album. And I was like, "Yeah, that's mine. That one's going home with me, no doubt." And from there on, it was this amazing love affair. And I I'm just glad we got to spend this time to do this together, because it was super cool.
Yeah,
We
man.
we we threatened it for a long time, and I don't, we had like 12 or 14 people watching. Now we didn't publicize it a lot, and I don't do a lot on social media, but I know this one will get watched. It'll get looked at. I think some of your fans will pick up on it, and some of the people that come to my show certainly will. And so, I don't know. In closing, what do you have to say about King's X, man? What they mean to you?
I mean, if if it wasn't for them, I would not be a musician. Period. I would not be a songwriter. I would not have this outlet that I have. Like music is this outlet. It's this way that I process my thoughts. It's the way I process my life. It's the lens that I see the world through. I mean, my wife Beck, she always says that language is my first language is music. That's the thing that I speak the most fluently. Um, and so it's like I don't know.
Well,
I owe a massive debt of gratitude to those guys.
if you're a
You know,
new person that comes onto this, if you're a new person that comes and sees this, King's X are one of those kind of bands that are kind of unclassifiable. They kind of straddle so many different genres, and yet they do them all so well. They're consummate songwriters. They're great musicians, but you're not going to get a wank fest. Every now and again, you'll get some really cool tunage that you can drift in and out of or sink your teeth into, and you'll get some great solos. There's nobody sounds like Ty out there. Just nobody sounds like that guy. Um, you're gonna get amazing vocal harmonies on most of the songs that you're just like, wow, that's three people are doing that. Come on. And you're gonna get good, honest, heartfelt music that is kind of timeless, and it every musician you ever see out there, if you ask most musicians, "Hey, what do you think of King's X?" They're gonna be like, dude, fucking King's X, man. Oh my God, they fucking rule." But if you walked out on the street today,
yeah, you're quiet. I can't hear you. You cut out. Yeah, it's still silent.
Okay, man. Sorry about that. I don't know what the hell happened. Somebody called and it cut me off. Can you hear me now?
Oh, there you are.
We're good. Okay. So we're gonna
Yep.
tie this up. We got about 3.5 hours in, which I figured it would be that. Rick kept saying, "Dude, you're gonna be talking till like 4 in the morning." I'm like, I don't think so. I think Austin will be over there snoring if I'm talking till 2 in the morning. But yeah, it just they're a killer band, and just so you know, they're not a metal band, but they are a metal band. Figure that one out on your own. That's kind of the way I look at it.
Hard rock,
Yeah, they're a hard
progressive
rock
hard.
band, sure. But you're not going to hear death growls. You're not going to hear fucking too many blast beats, although Austin claims there is one on Visions. I got to go check that out. I'm sure Jerry can do them.
On the live
Um,
version, but then
okay.
on Harriet's song, they do the. It's like a skank beat. Taka, 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 taka. You
Right,
know.
right.
Da 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 da
So
da da da. Taka, 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 taka,
I just want to share you for I want to thank you for sharing all your cool shit. You have way more cool shit than I do, uh, clearly. But we're hardliners on this band, and I think that's great because the thing about King's X fans is, man, they are devout. They are fucking
Yeah.
serious fans. They're not fly by night guys. Like, yeah, this album's okay, and that album's okay. They're diehards, and I think that's a beautiful thing. I again, Austin, thank you so much. Again, you have an album probably coming out next year. When's your acoustic album? You think that's going to show up?
They're gonna come out kind of around the same time.
Okay,
Um, yeah, it'll be kind of one after the other kind of deal.
and it's
I
just
mean,
going
they're
to be
complete.
on. It's just going to be on Austin Lunn album, or are you going to have a name for
No,
it? Or
it's not a record.
oh, it's still put out.
So
Okay.
I've never put out anything under my name
Oh,
because I don't have a very impressive name. So you know, so I always just put it out under Panopticon. So yeah,
by the
both
way,
of the
which
records.
by the way, I don't know how many people know what a panopticon is, but that is a fucking. I heard the word first on ISIS's album. Obviously, they had panopticon, but when I looked up what a panopticon is back then, I was like, "Whoa, that's fucking cool as shit, man." We'll have to talk about that some other time. Well, unless you want to talk about it now, is what led you
It's
to
just
that? What was
an architectural model. Um,
okay?
so a panopticon prison is a prison where there's a centralized location in the
Right,
center of the prison, and all the cells go around in a circle. But the guard tower, the prisoners can't tell if they're being watched or not
right,
because of the positioning of the guard tower. And
right,
so the idea is that a panopticon prison, the inmates work under the assumption that they're being watched, even if they're not.
right,
And so, um, contrary to popular belief, the album is not named after the ISIS record. I do have a
right.
copy of that record. But I actually was exposed to that word for the first time by the uh, punk band, crust punk band Catharsis. Had a song
Mm-hmm.
called Panopticon. And I was like, "What's a panopticon?" And this was in like 1999 or 2000 or whatever. And so I looked it up, and I was like, "This is great." And so many years later, when I started my own solo project after I left my former band, I was like, "Well, I need a band name," and I was like, "This suits the things that I'm writing about." And in
Nice.
the early days of the band, everything I was writing was all super political. You know,
Right, right. I know that. Yes.
I hadn't really started writing about emotional things or about nature and wilderness. You know, that was later on. So in the early days, it was all um, very political, and so I chose
Yep.
that name. And kind of like how a lot of bands like Death and Bathory, in their early days, the name reflects the band, but then as time goes on, the band changes. It's kind of the
Gotcha.
same thing with like as I have changed as a person. Um, you know, the music that I'm writing, the subject matter that I write about, um, has changed. So,
Well,
but then
I'm looking forward to it. The last one was super good, and black metal for me is a tricky one. I have to have the right combination of things. I just, I won't lie to you. I'm not a raw black metal guy. Like I just don't get into it. Lo-fi production, stuff like, a couple of the early Dark Throne albums. I'm just like, I do have Blaze and I like it, but it's not something I reach for a lot. But your stuff is very powerful. It's very emotive. There's a lot of imagery in the way that you play. If that makes any sense to you. Like I hear a lot of imagery in your playing style and in the content of your songs is it's pretty deep shit. So I'm looking forward to it. I can't thank you enough for being on tonight. And we can hook up tomorrow on Zoom later. I probably won't be up till afternoon. I'm looking forward to
Yeah,
seeing that. And
let
I
me
want
know
to thank,
when you're
yeah, I'll let you know. I want to thank Marty for reaching out to me and posting on the Bindrune and Panopticon sites. Hopefully, people will catch that and come at this later. I think I have a good feeling we're going to get a good number of views on this, and there's not a lot of these out there on this band. A lot of people review the new album, but I have not seen many deep dives at all on this band, and that's why I decided, yeah, we got to do this, and you're the guy that has to be with me. So I love you for doing this. I appreciate you. I think you're a fucking really cool guy. And I'm sorry for the lag when I would talk over you a little bit. Unfortunately, there's just enough of a lag with you. Like when you shake your head moves, but it's just a little slow on my side. I don't know if it's my internet
it's
or
me.
yours
This is my
possibly. Oh, is that it?
and
That's
my
your
internet's
source.
it's coming off my
Ah,
phone
okay.
because
That
the
makes sense then.
internet sucks.
Yeah.
So don't
Um,
feel bad.
okay. Well, anything else you want to say to anybody that's watching? You good?
No, thank you for watching, and I had a great time talking about one of the most important bands in my life. So they mean the world to me, and so I'm glad that we got to have this conversation. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, I told you my favorite band is Rush. It'll always be Rush. It'll never not be Rush. But King's X is pretty high up there, dude. There's a 10 pack of bands that any given day somebody could be at the top of that list. And it's cool that King's X came back and gave us an album after 14 years, and it's a really solid album. And
Yeah,
so I hope you get a chance to see him. Where's the closest place for you? Minneapolis
yeah,
for like
probably
shows?
so.
And how
Yeah,
far a
I mean, I
drive? Sounds like
four,
that like a
four
two
and a
hour
half
drive.
hours.
Oh,
No, it's
four.
4.5. Yeah,
Oh shit, that's a long trek for a show.
yeah,
But
it's 4.5.
For King's X, you might have to do it.
I would do it. I,
All right,
I
brother.
would definitely do it. All
Thank you
right.
so much, Austin. You're great, and I'll check in with you tomorrow afternoon. And Kevin, Logan, who else is out there? I saw you said a friend of yours, Victor. Thrasher Be Thrashed is my buddy Frederick. Thank you guys for all jumping on, and I hope you learned a little something, saw some cool shit, and the great Austin Lunn. Thank you, brother.
Cheers. Take care.
Have a good
See you
night,
soon.
man. See ya. Bye.
Yeah, you too.